Okay, so now this is the formal welcome. I've got the notices out the way. And I just wanted to say that obviously this event is essentially to kind of reflect on the Guyanese heritage of our guests and to think about their sense of identity and belonging, as I think you're all kind of British citizens essentially, and to share the secret of your professional and personal success. And so before we start and go into that, what I wanted to do was invite Marissa McKinnon. She was here last year for another Guyana Speaks, in which she had written a song about Guyana. And I'm sure many of you will have heard it. She provided us with an exclusive listening to that. And we later on went to see her at her own kind of gig in, where were we? I can't remember where it was, somewhere, Shepherd's Bush, yeah. It was in Shepherd's Bush, yeah, and it was fantastic. So, and since then, Marissa's just been amazing. She's provided Guyana Speaks with its own jingle. So we're really delighted. And we just thought, since today is about the second and third generation Guyanese, and of course, Marissa belongs to that group, we would really like her to introduce the jingle. Marissa, over to you. Oh, I need to get
nice. Are
you on co-host?
I'm good. How are you? How's everyone?
We're all good.
So as you know, I'll just introduce myself a little bit. So my name's Marissa, and I'm an artist. So I write music and I sing music as well. And I studied a master's in commercial songwriting. And Rod came to me and he asked if I could write a jingle for Guyana Speaks. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And I heard that it was a little Christmas surprise. So, so I kind of gathered some ideas and stuff from Rod and tried to get the feel of what Guyana Speaks means, and also incorporate the rhythms and stuff and the sounds of Guyana. So I'm going to present to you the Guyana Speaks jingle. I'm just going to share my screen and just let me know if you can see this. Can you see?
We can see it.
Okay, cool. So this is the Guyana Speaks jingle. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you.
Listen to Guyana's heart. You can hear it when we speak. It's the sound of six peoples from the land of the free. Even when we're miles apart, we are joined by the sea. Discover beauty in our culture as we share our history. Guyana speaks true all are we. Guyana, we love this country. Welcome to Guyana Speaks. Welcome to Guyana Speaks.
There you go. So yeah, I wrote that in here and just recorded it over there and sent it off to my producer as well, and then we got together and made the beat.
Absolutely fantastic. I love listening. Like I have this on repeat because it's so it just gets you all excited and happy. So really grateful for that. Thank you so much, Marissa.
You're welcome. And if anyone wants any jingles as well, I'm available. So
Yeah, absolutely. Marissa, before you go, tell us what you've got ahead of you. Have you got anything planned, any concerts coming up or anything?
yeah, so I'm in the middle of writing my debut EP, and I'm looking to release a song in Easter, which will be my first release for 2022. So yeah, I will definitely post and keep you guys updated, but there is some stuff cooking in the oven.
That is fantastic. Well, thank you so much, and we'll absolutely be following you. Brilliant.
Is it me?
Really appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. I'm going to move on. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to go to Natalie Quayle first. So if I can find Natalie, I'm going to try and spot you. Hi, there you go. You're right. That's perfect. I'm going to introduce you first, Natalie. So I have you down as being the founder and CEO of Smile Time, a rapid growth oral cosmetics company as seen in the BBC and Independent. Her passion for smile care started from working summers in her parents' dental company age 16. She previously worked as an international tax lawyer at top UK firms such as Baker & McKinsey and Mishcon de Reya. As a second generation Guyanese, her parents' hard work building their business from scratch have inspired her own discipline and a path to entrepreneurship. So Natalie, it's really wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Juanita. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, I had a few questions for you. And one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting is how come you didn't go into dentistry first of all? Because you transitioned from being a tax lawyer to the founder and CEO of Smile Time. How did you end up in law in the first place?
Well, I think my parents being from quite a hardworking background themselves, and I'm sure a lot of Guyanese would also, I guess, probably have this experience. I was given a few options in terms of the careers I would go for. It was law, accounting, medicine, or dentistry. I'm not the strongest with numbers, and actually I faint at the sight of blood. So dentistry and medicine seemed a bit out of, it didn't seem that possible when I was kind of like applying for university. And actually I always loved public speaking and I loved debating, and I was great at English and history. So law seemed like the best kind of way forward. And I did a law degree at LSE. And then I qualified into corporate tax law and private tax. And actually, it was something that I really enjoyed doing, but I think I always wanted to start my own business. And it was only when I was kind of working as an international tax lawyer, I started to, well, I guess to give a bit of background, when I was working at my parents' dental practices, when I was kind of, 16 onwards, I loved whitening my own smile. It was a way that it was definitely a gateway to feeling confident in other areas of my life. But when I was working in tax law, I had zero time to go to the dentist ever, because you're working super long hours. And I found that actually your smile is such an important first impression when dealing with clients, but having no time to kind of go to the dentist, and it's also pretty expensive, time consuming. I started to think, well, actually, is there an alternative? Even though, my parents are in that business, they're always encouraging me to be entrepreneurial. And I was thinking about alternatives to traditional dentistry, which is when I came up with launching an at-home solution, which is kind of how Smile Time was born in 2019. And kind of, fast forward a few years later, we now have 50,000 customers. I left my job in law full-time to work on Smile Time full-time in June 2019. And so we have around 50,000 customers. We've sold into 15 countries worldwide. And I can now officially announce that we're going to be on Dragon's Den on Thursday. So if anyone watches Dragon's Den, please tune in. It was kind of quite confidential, but now we're in the next episode, we're allowed to say that. So that's kind of been a whirlwind tour of my journey into small care from tax law. I guess from tax law to teeth whitening is a slogan.
That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. I was going to ask you what inspired you to go into oral cosmetics, but you kind of answered that. But I think it's really interesting because you say you started it in 2019. So you've had to survive through COVID. Like, how have you... First of all, okay, so tell me first, what are the products? And then once you answer that, tell me how you've actually managed to survive through the whole pandemic and lockdown.
Sure. So our best-selling product is our at-home peroxide-free teeth whitening kit. Now, traditional dentistry, usually teeth whitening, around 50% of patients will experience some sensitivity, but actually with our formula, using it at home without any peroxide, we're able to sell this product without being dentists because of the formulation, and everything is improved by we have a UK cosmetics compliance lab that does all our compliance. We spot test all our products, so we know that they're safe and a good quality to be able to sell. And we sell direct to consumer, so via our website online, and that's kind of where we've done the majority of our customer acquisition. So actually, COVID, as it has for many online businesses, we actually experienced quite significant growth quite quickly because we had a captive audience when shops were shut during lockdowns. But actually everyone was really focused on self-care at home. A lot to do with, I think a lot of people would find that they were doing their own hair care, they were investing in skincare for the first time. And at-home teeth whitening was very much a similar sector, that people were on Zoom the whole time, their smile was full front and center. So teeth whitening, being able to do it at home became a real, desirable product for people to add to their self-care repertoire. So yeah, I think COVID actually kind of with the lockdowns gave us a boost in growth because we had that increased demand online. And I think it was also because at the very beginning of the pandemic in the UK, dentists were shut for the first few months. So that was also a reason why we saw an increase in demand online.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it provided you with the perfect sort of scenario, because I spend my whole life on Zoom now and Zoom meetings. And now I think, I'm going to need to buy this whitening because, I've got my pajamas on the bottom half, and then I'm going to make the top half look good, right? So that's brilliant. I've just put in the chat a link to the BBC coverage of you. So I don't know if anybody wants to save the chat. You can actually just go into where it says everyone, and on the side there's a little button there so you can save the chat. So if anybody wants to look at the links afterward, please do, because I'm going to be putting various links about the different speakers in there. But can I just ask you, what has been your kind of educational background? I mean, because setting up a business is quite a big thing. I mean, obviously having a legal background would be very helpful, but in terms of being an entrepreneur, are you supported by a big team, or how does it work?
Well, luckily my advisors are my parents, and they set up their own business from scratch. So they have several dental practices, and that's something they built from the ground up over the last 30 years. So I think one of the most invaluable aspects of our success was having that background, and deep expertise in the industry was fundamental to finding our way at the outset. And for example, one of the important things when setting up your own business, we're selling cosmetics direct to consumer, rights supply chain. So who is going to be your first supplier? And I think, for us, we were very lucky that my parents were able to introduce us to our first supplier, and that helped us understand how the supply chain would work. We've since then moved on to finding our own suppliers, but it's kind of having some of those ground foundational, I think, building blocks to understanding the things that you need to be considering when starting a business. So I think kind of the dental expertise in the background, they were fundamental. Understanding how to build out the supply chain. I was able, from a legal background, thinking about the compliance is really important. So I knew from the outset that whatever we were going to be putting out to consumers, we needed to be ticking all the boxes when it came to regulation, which is where I think a lot of businesses early stage businesses will trip up, because they're just going to take something to market and not do their due diligence, which, if you want to build a brand and something that lasts, you need to make sure that from the day one, we were looking to, okay, what's it all going to look like when we have a spotlight on us? Like, for example, the Dragon's Den opportunity, that's something, that kind of level of publicity is something we were thinking about day one. And I think that was probably that kind of background of my parents' business, and having that legal understanding as well, really helpful, I think, in building those building blocks.
That's fantastic. So did you, in terms of Dragon's Den, how long is that process? I mean, did you apply to join like last year? I mean, how long is the whole?
So they have a team that approaches businesses that they think might kind of work on the show, and that happened in 2020. But we thought it was too early for us to apply, but it kind of was in the back of our minds that, okay, well, they thought would be a good business for the show. So the year after, in 2021, we actively applied. And the entire process, it takes about 2 months. The application is open to any business. You can literally go to Dragon's Den Apply website, and they really do look at all the applications. So it's not something that's like a handshake behind closed doors. It really is open and accessible. So I would encourage any business that kind of wants to try and get, you know, kind of that PR opportunity to try and make that application if they're thinking of doing that. And so it took, I filmed it last year, June. So they edited it for 6 months, and then it's now only coming out now. And I don't know what the edited version looks like, so I'm going to be watching it fresh with everyone else.
So that's really interesting though, because if they say that they decide that they're going to support your business, do you find at the point when you've filmed, or do you find out when it's aired? Oh, it must be when you filmed, yeah.
So I can't say what happens in my episode, but the general rule is, so entrepreneurs can get offers on the show, and then it kind of enters a normal due diligence process after the show. And then so a lot of the kind of groundwork of the investment has been done by the time the show airs.
Okay, wow, that's brilliant. Well, congratulations on that. I just wanted to do I wanted everybody to just get a sense of each individual. So we'll come back to you all on the screen, and we'll talk about how central Guyana is to the kind of shaping of you and your character and your entrepreneurship and everything else. But for now, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm going to move now, I think, to Alieda. Can I bring Alieda in? Let me see if I can see.
Can you hear me okay?
Yay, there you go. Thank you so much, Alieda. I'm going to read your bio just to give everybody an introduction. So I have you down as you're currently a manager and policy advisor at the Bank of England. Alieda's held a number of roles at the bank across its markets, financial stability, and monetary analysis areas, and is also a public speaker for the bank. Prior to joining the bank, she held roles at Deloitte and Goldman Sachs. Alieda is actively involved in diversity and inclusion initiatives and co-chaired the Ethnic Minority Network from 2018 to 2020. Alieda has been recognized as a top 5 Empower Future leader and has been shortlisted for the We Are the City Rising Star Award. I read a lot more actually about you, Alieda, and I can't believe just how amazing your role sounds. And I know you're part of the, is it the Bank of England's got an ethnic minority group network as well?
Yes, so it's got an ethnic minority network. Actually, I must say, so just before Christmas, I was actually promoted to a senior manager role at the bank in our Future of Money division. So when I go back to work in a couple of weeks, I'll be doing some stuff on Future of Money and the future of banknotes, which I think is something that's really relevant to all of us when you think about how we use payments. So happy to speak about that. But yes, there's a BAME network at the Bank of England, and I think you'll find that in quite a few corporations. And I think those networks are really about recognising that there are forces at play that mean that Black, Asian, minority ethnic staff, in terms of recruitment, progression and opportunities, there's a disconnect there and a difference between those afforded to BAME staff, as we call them in the UK, which is Black, Asian, minority ethnic, and white staff. And so I was part of that network, dealing with initiatives and coming up with initiatives to try and address those disparities.
So can you tell us a bit more, because it says you also arranged and chaired a Colour Brave series that allowed the BAME staff, I guess within the Bank of England, to talk about their experiences. And I'm getting the impression you've been really central to reshaping the sort of the inclusivity and diversity there. I mean, can you say something about Black Lives Matter? Because I'm wondering if that kind of opened the door to the bank listening more, or were you kind of involved in this a lot before then?
Yeah, so quite a lot before. I joined the bank in 2015, and as you say, had a number of other roles in the corporate world. And I think so for me, despite, and I can go into my background, and, you know, my mum's a teacher, my grandmother was a teacher, so academic excellence is something that's been instilled in me from a really young age. But despite all of my academic achievements and proven abilities, when I joined the corporate world, I suffered greatly from imposter syndrome and a sense of, you know, not belonging or feeling I was good enough to be there. And I think that was more so at the Bank of England, which, as you can imagine, is not only very white and very male, but also very, very traditionally British and part of the establishment. So, you know, use of Latin phrases, and there's a certain way to carry yourself and conduct yourself, and these unwritten rules that you have to navigate when in that environment. And so for me, I definitely felt that, and that imposter syndrome was quite great when I first joined the bank. But I think, given how I've been brought up, given my background, given how I was raised, I couldn't let that, you know, defeat or discourage me. And so I decided to do something about it. And that's how I got involved in the BAE network of the bank, firstly as a member, and then eventually co-chairing the network. And so I've been having these conversations within the bank, you know, from about 2015, came up with a strategy with my other co-chairs to really move the dial on diversity and inclusion, and how it feels to be a Black member of staff, you know, within the bank, and how we attract talent, who and how we promote talent within the organisation, and really, if you like, getting the bank to have a real good look at itself. And it wasn't easy. I think there have definitely been more conversations post, you know, Black Lives Matter. But it's been slow. I'd say slower than one would like. But there's definitely been progress there, and I think the organisation I joined and the organisation it is today are two completely different organisations.
I mean, that in itself is just such a huge achievement. I take my hat off to you. I mean, I worked in finance and private equity myself, and I think I was the only woman of color in a company of like 200 people. So I know exactly what you mean. And that whole issue of imposter syndrome is forever plagues me. You know, I always have exactly the same issues, but I'm really amazed. I mean, I'd love to know, do you feel that as a Black woman that you still need to assimilate into that kind of white male way of being with the Latin and all that kind of nonsense, or are you able to actually be yourself?
I mean, I tried and it just didn't work. I mean, I'd mess up the Latin phrases, and it just wasn't comfortable. And I think we spend so much time at work and in these organizations that, and you know, we are trying to recruit different people, and for, you know, a good reason. You have different you have diverse minds, diverse ideas in the room, you make better decisions, and that's been proven over and over again. But there's no point in recruiting all of this diverse talent and then, you know, kind of cardboard cutting them into what it looks like to be traditionally BOE. Let's actually make use of our different ideas, our different ways of being. And so in the beginning, I would say, yeah, I was, you know, Googling all these Latin phrases and trying to use them. And but actually, and in my time, and as I progressed through the organization, I definitely felt more comfortable and felt actually it's the right thing to be myself. And for other people that we bring into the organization, they should be able to be themselves. I think that's the only time and the only way we can make diversity and inclusion work. So I think I'm very much more myself than I ever have been in the organisation, and more comfortable being myself, or more comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think for me, it's really about thinking about future. Oh, sorry, my laptop's thinking about future generations. Thinking about how I felt when I first joined the corporate world. How can I ensure that someone else doesn't feel that way as they enter this organisation in this world? And I think the bank is getting on board with that, and so are a lot of other huge corporations across the city.
Okay, so I have one last question for you before I move on, and I just wanted to ask you, how do you manage then to stay in touch with the kind of conversations that are going on in the Black community yourself? Because I feel like within banking, it would be very easy for there to become a kind of disconnect between you and the Black community. And things like, for example, the term BAME, you know, a lot, you know, like that in itself is an example of a shifting kind of shifting discourse around there where it's become quite an unpopular term now. So how do you manage to kind of stay on top of all those the shifting sands of racial discourse, I guess?
I guess it's not even kind of staying in touch with that. It's a part of me. So how I've grown up, you know, the conversations I have with my family, with my friends, with my partner, that's who I am. So, you know, I'm half Guyanese and half Jamaican in terms of heritage, British born, but I'm very, very aware of my blackness. I'm very black and very proud to be black. And so the conversations I have with friends, with family, it's just, you know, the social media channels I follow, the you know, joining protests, you know, it's a part of me. So I almost feel like I don't have to try to keep in touch with what I'm interested in. It's what I live and breathe each day, and it's what I bring to the bank and to conversations I have at the bank with our senior management and with others across the organisation.
Thank you. That's really interesting. And I just want to shout out, because I can see your Guyana necklace and your Jamaica necklace. Representing. We like to see that. So yeah, no, thank you so much. And I mean, what you're doing, I think is really invaluable, because as I say, having worked in private equity myself, I know how alienating that kind of environment can feel to Black people coming in. So you're doing an absolutely crucial job, and more power to you. So thank you so much, and I'll come back to you again later on. And now I would like to go to, who am I going to go to? Probably Salina, but let me just check. Yeah, Salina. Salina, are you there?
Hello.
Da-da.
Thank you for having me here. So what an inspiring story that was.
It wasn't it? Fantastic. And listen, I love your background. That's fun. That's one of your paintings, clearly. Really fantastic. I'm going to just introduce you properly. So, you know, you're a London-born artist of Indo-Guyanese descent. And I've got here that you make art about that experience and the journey of your family through indentured labor to Guyana, and as part of the Windrush generation coming to the UK in the 1950s. You're clearly a visual storyteller. I can see exploring identity, culture, and heritage, and the Indian indenture and double diaspora experience through your drawing. You're a visual artist working in the mediums of charcoal, pastel, ink, and print. And I have here that your free to view solo exhibition, Following the Thread, is currently showing at Queen's Park, but I think it's finished. It was until the 1st of December, wasn't it? Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what are you doing at the moment? Do you have any exhibitions coming up?
I have some work, actually. This piece, which is called Celosia, which is named after the coxcomb, you can see the red coxcomb there, is actually on display with 8 other pieces at Matthews Yard, which is in Croydon. It's a really fantastic art space, and yeah, it's a really lovely space actually in central Croydon. It's 5 minutes away from my studio actually, so it's really, which is where I made this piece, so that's kind of a really nice tie-in as well, to have something so local. So yeah, so that whole collection, that some of that work that I made for my solo show is on show there, which is lovely.
So I was actually going to ask you, obviously, imagine Guyana as a giant canvas, and what colors do you see? And you've preempted it with the whole image at the back, which is fantastic. Have you actually been to Guyana? Just out of
I have. I have been to Guyana. I went to Guyana when I was 8 years old. It was a long time ago, but I created a series of works called Memories of Guyana, which are based on all of my memories, and kind of assisted through photographs as well. You know, and so I suppose when I think of Guyana, and when I see Guyana, when I draw about it, I'm drawing from almost like a view from childhood, because that's what my memories are. So I kind of maybe have a sort of childlike perspective of what Guyana is like, and the tastes and the smells and the colours, I suppose, of Guyana as well, are quite childlike memories, because that's what it is to me. You know, it's that childhood experience that I'm kind of bringing out and putting onto my paper. And I draw.
Did you, I mean, when you were growing up, did you know that you wanted to be an artist, would become an artist?
So you know, when you say, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be a children's book illustrator. So I always drew. I went to art school. I have always drawn. Yeah, absolutely. It's been my thing. So yeah, I don't think when you're a kid, you know, like there are so many jobs you can do as a creative. So I don't think we really know what it means to be an artist. But yeah, I always wanted to be an artist. And then I went away. I had a 30-year corporate career, and 5 years ago I ditched that and have come back into the art world, and it's been amazing experience, a truly amazing
so that's interesting, because what I actually wanted to know about was, you know, because being an artist, I always think of it's such a difficult role, because it's, you know, you don't know whether you're going to be able to make a career out of it and a living from it, you know, that sort of thing. But so it's interesting that you're saying you actually worked in the corporate world for a while. Was that in something completely different?
Totally. So I went to art school. I was really lucky. My mum, who's there, hi mum, she might contradict me, but my memory was that my mother was like, you have to go to university and get a degree. But she didn't care what it was. Like, I didn't have to be a doctor, or something. You know, my brother is a doctor of mathematics. I think he ticked that box. But for me, I went to art school, and that was wonderful. I studied art for 7 years, and I came out of that and I was like, I need to make money. And this was, you know, I came out of art school in the 90s. We did not have social media. Like, you know, I don't think there was there was no possibility of me doing what I do now then. It was just not possible. So I went into hospitality. I worked operationally in hospitality, retail and food manufacturing businesses. And I went into HR. And I still do a bit of HR consultancy and training and development. So I still do a little bit of that. But 5 years ago, I quit my, you know, exec job, and yeah, I've not looked back. And I think it's really, social media, it's a curse and a blessing, but it's been a great thing. I don't have to have an agent. I don't have to, you know, I find other ways of being an artist and being creative every day and sharing that creativity with other people. So I think there's so many more possibilities than when I left art school now, that, you know, nowadays to then, it's just not comparable. So yeah, you can make a living as an artist. Now.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if somebody, a youngster, was coming to you and said, look, you know, I want to be an artist, would you advise them to have a kind of backup career in case they can't, or would you just tell them to launch straight into becoming an artist? Or
I do work with lots of young people. I'm purposefully, I work with a lot of educational charities. I teach young people and older people, all age range, and I think that's very, very important part of what I do as an artist, because young people, I go into schools and they look at me and they see someone that maybe looks like them, or maybe looks different from what they think of a traditional artist. You know, we know that representation matters, it's so important. And you can be an artist, I don't think, you know, and also, again, artist means many different, you know, there are many different hats to being an artist. You know, being an artist isn't just about having a piece of work up in an art gallery. There are many, many forms of creative careers. And yeah, I think it can be accessible. You know, we're not all going to be in the Tate. That's okay. There are other ways that you can have a really successful career as an artist. So yeah, I think you should follow your dreams.
So you because the other thing that I find interesting is I think you're kind of you have many different types of strings to your bow, because I saw you were doing something to do with knitting.
Oh yeah. So I mean, this is my fine art practice. So I do have a lot of hats. I also am a knitter. I knit, I crochet, but I make illustrations about the crafting community, about knitters and about crocheters and spinners and dyers. And I sell that work. And actually my husband and I wrote a book. I illustrated it. Luke, hello Luke, he's here too. He wrote the book, and it's told in rhyme, and it's a story about knitting. And I, you know, like I do, this picture behind me, this is my family. This is my family. This is all my family's in this picture. And that's what I do with my artwork. I'm telling stories. So before I told stories about my family and about my cultural heritage, I was telling stories about my hobbies, and one of those is knitting. So I've got friends who have been drawn over and over again, and I am a visual storyteller. So that's what I'm trying to do, is tell stories about people whose stories might not be out there as well. You know, like that story of indentureship, you know, people don't really know about it. And what happened is I did an exhibition at the Trinidad and Tobago High Commission, which was awesome. And there was 7 or 8 artists there, all, you know, from the Caribbean. And I had some charcoal drawings in this exhibition of depicting the story of indenture and the type of work that indentured people in Guyana were doing. And lots of young people came up to me who were 2nd or 3rd generation, you know, Caribbean, and they were identifying as Caribbean, as West Indian, but they'd never been there, and they didn't know this, and they were like, I didn't know this story. And I kind of felt like a bit of a responsibility to show that in my work, to tell those stories, and to be honest, to find out more myself, because I didn't know that much myself. So I'm constantly researching and finding out. And I suppose for me as well, the way I research something and get my head around it and understand how I feel about something is I don't really take notes, I draw.
Okay.
So that's my process. I don't kind of like write things down. I'm always drawing those things. So that's what I was doing. I was drawing, and, you know, and like drawing from photographs as well. These types of things like are a process to me to understand, you know. And when I first started making work about my cultural heritage, about being Guyanese, I started off with this sort of basic questions about like, what would it have been like for our family getting on that boat in India, going that journey, 3 months on a boat, stepping off to this other land. And I couldn't imagine what that would be like. Like, you could imagine what that would be like. Like, I live a very, you know, blessed and comfortable life here. So I kind of wanted to picture that. And the way I tried to do that and to explore that was through drawing. And the work that I make is kind of as a result of that, and the ongoing journey that I've had through that process, I suppose.
I think that's really interesting, because I was thinking in terms of identity, like I have like everybody else, I have multiple kind of identities, and I need to express my identities I need to have a space where I can express all my different identities. And I'm just wondering, like, for you with your drawings, is that what creates is that kind of like just an expression of your identity as well? And also, if you could just, I really want to know who these people in the background are, because they may be in the audience, right? I'm assuming like there's your mom.
That's my mom.
Yeah, I was gonna guess, but I was guessing that's your mom. But I mean, yeah, I mean, is it, if you didn't do art, how would you? I'm just trying to understand. Is like, how is this art an expression of the need to identify with something that isn't present in Britain per se?
Yes. 100% it is, absolutely. And I think the thing is, when I was growing up, and we will talk about this a bit more, I think, but when I was growing up, I always felt really English. Like my husband, who's, you know, also in the audience, but he always says like, you're more English than I am. He's English. I'm very, very culturally, you know, British, culturally English.
Yeah.
And but I think maybe like sort of about 5-6 years ago. I think it all sort of coincided with you know, me coming in, you know, being like going into art, but also what's happened since Brexit as well, because I think there's been a cultural shift in this country because of that. I really kind of started to feel that need, or maybe it's age as well. As you get older, I felt this need to connect with my identity, to really understand. Like I've always said, you know, I'm from Guyana, like my family of Guyanese, but this is something different. This was something deeper. And so, like, actually this picture behind is quite, it's kind of quite a good example, because there's a lot. You need me to duck, don't you?
Yeah, is that your dad behind your mum there?
No, it's not actually. So that picture, I'm holding it up like it's behind me, but it's not. I just need to put that away. So this is my mum, if you can see. So that's my mum, and she's taken everything, every single tiny detail has a meaning, okay? And she's taking a cup of tea from my niece Talia. And so it's about generations. So that's me, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing, I would just like to point out this little thing. That's
your Guyana flag in there.
I've got my Guyana flag, which
Guyana map, I should say.
my grandparents gave me this when I was born. I think it's quite a popular thing. My cousins all have one as well. And then that's my grandfather there.
Okay.
My grandfather used to grow this plant, which is coxcomb. And my mother, I went round, I think it was during lockdown, I went round to my mum's house, and she was growing this plant in her North London garden. And I felt this profound, I grow food as well in my allotment. I've got allotment here. And whenever I grow something, I always feel this sort of profound sense of connection through generations. My grandfather grew food. He grew coxcomb. My mother was growing coxcomb in a North London garden. The flowers my mother had were like this big. Like I'm imagining in Guyana, they'd be this big. Apparently you can eat this plant as well. Like I found that out by posting about it. And then over there, these are not real people as such, but I'm imagining that these are my great grandparents who came from India, because they would have been working the cane fields, you know, the sugar cane, and we're drinking cups of tea.
Okay. Yeah, with the sugar in it. Yeah,
with the sugar in it, you know. And I'm kind of and there's flowers in there that represent, and plants in there that represent Guyana, that represent India. So the national flower of India is in there, and it's actually depicted on the cup. And then there are English flowers, because they're part of my garden, what I grow now. So it's kind of all of those, I'm kind of pulling all those strands together. There's a lot of symbols, there's a lot of mini stories within the mini stories within the stories, but they're my stories, you know, like I can only tell my story really in this, and that's evolving and changing all the time as I learn new things about, you know, about Guyana, about those connections. I really want to go back to Guyana so much, and actually I'd been planning to go to Canada to meet. We have lots of family in Canada. My family's all over the world now. But then COVID.
COVID happened. I know we're all waiting to go to Guyana. We were like, we've been to Guyana every year since 2006. 2006. 2006. Wow. So of course this is the first time with lockdown that we haven't been able to go. Salina, thank you. I'm gonna move. We'll come back to you, but I'm gonna move now to Erica Samba. Erica, are you there? Erica,
I am.
Hey, Erica. I am gonna see if I can play your tune. So I really want. It's so beautiful. I really wanted people to hear this before we start.
Thank you.
But I'm going to introduce you first, and then I'll go to playing it. So okay. You're Erica Samba, but you use Samba as your stage name. Is that right? Yeah. So I have here yeah, I have here from a young age that you were always drawn to music, and that in your early years you learned to play the piano and you had vocal coaching, and all of that sparked the beginning of what has now led to the release of a debut single. Throughout your life, music has always been a safe place for you to turn, and with much more in the work, Erica hopes that she too can make her music a place where the world can turn to in their times of need. So that's actually quite a powerful statement in terms of what music means to you. And it reminds me of my mother, because whenever I used to have issues, she was always like, just put on some good music. Because I used to be like a typical English girl and go, I'm going to the pub to have a drink with my mates. That's not going to solve your problem. Listen to music. So I'm going to share this. Let's see if I can share my screen and let people hear this. Oh, hang on a second. That is not right. Stop share for a second. I need to put the sound on, don't I? So share screen, share sound. Okay, this should work now.
You say that it's okay now, but what you gonna say now that I'm not yours? Everything is different. You're the one I'm missing, and there's no choice. You're the one I want, but you can't see me. There's no other love that will free me, and boy, I'm locked in your love. I can't stop loving you. I know you feel the same too. I can't stop loving you. But all you gotta do is just trust me and love me. All you gotta do is just trust me and love me. Jumping off the deep, losing all my feelings. Thinking about when I was taking your ship, till like it was all cool. Am I the one that's a fool? Please make sense.
Okay, I just wanted to give a taste of that. I'm going to put that in the link, because I'm sure people are going to want to, let me stop share. People are going to want to listen to that. But I was just worried if I play the whole thing, I might not be able to save it on YouTube, because they'll say I'm stealing somebody else's music. So
it's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you for playing that.
But yeah, I mean, that was amazing. I just wanted to know from you, who's your role model? Who's been your role model in all of this?
I mean, I think, sorry, first of all, I just want to say, by the way, all the ladies who spoke before me, I think are absolutely amazing. Like, I was sitting here just so enwrapped in everyone's stories. So congratulations to all of you. And yeah, I think I have like quite a few role models all into one, and they're a mixture of, I guess, obviously a lot of my musical inspiration comes from artists. Like, from a really young age, I was obsessed with Alicia Keys. I still am. Because I just love the way like she writes, and obviously she plays the piano. She writes all her music sort of really organically, like from scratch. So yeah, that kind of influenced me in how I write my music, because I think a lot of people think sometimes that, oh, you can just be a singer and then you can, have your songs written for you and have your music made for you, which you can. But I think like the process of starting completely from scratch with just, your lyrics and maybe like your keyboard and maybe a producer to sort of put a shell of something together is just way better for me anyway. And then I think I used to also listen to a lot of sort of old school music, like Aretha Franklin, and like I've just written a song actually that's really like heavily inspired by her, so I hope I can pull it off when I release it. And yeah, I think as well, I just think I've had like a lot of just strong driven women in my life, like my mum, all of her friends, like my aunties. I've just had a lot of people that kind of sort of have a sort of passion that they want to follow, and then they have the direction to execute it. So I think the amalgamation of being exposed to music from a really young age, because I was born in Guyana, and all I remember is, especially on the weekends, is music playing in the house. And even here, when we moved here, it's the same pretty much every day, but on the weekends it's like families over, music is playing, so there's constantly that background noise that is kind of aiding, like creating all the memories that you have. So I think that those are my main inspirations. But I think I'm very, like, when I've observed things on a day-to-day basis, I'm at a point now where sort of everything kind of gives me a bit of inspiration. And then if you look through my phone, my voice notes, I have about 800 voice notes of like different song ideas and things that come into my head. So that's my main summary.
I think it's really interesting that you mentioned. So is there who's musical in your family? I mean, is there a tradition of being talented in the arena of music, or are you the first person to do that?
I think I've had like a few of my uncles, they're involved in music, like Eddie Grant is like my uncle, so and our family friend.
You don't have to whisper that. Eddie Grant is your uncle, man. Be proud.
So I think when I found that out, I was like, oh my gosh. And then so I remember I found out, and I started like listening to all his music and thinking, oh my gosh, like tapping into inspiration from that. And then I think my one of my brothers as well, like when I was growing up, all my brothers are quite creative, but one brother in particular, my brother Kenrick, he was rapping and DJing and all this stuff, and I just thought it was so cool. And I'd see him always getting ready, to go out and either do a DJ show, or even a few times he'd let me come to like his music videos and things like that. And that sort of made me think, okay, like it didn't have to be like, I think sometimes people think that, getting into the creative industry is kind of out of reach, but you actually you just need a studio. You don't even need a whole studio. I've got like my home studio set up right behind this camera. And a good quality camera where you can film, your footage for a music video or something like that. So, I think I pulled on that. And then through school, I was really like, enwrapped in music and drama and things like that. But I think, it got to a phase where I became like really shy. So I would only sing like in my room, and I did do drama in school, but like before going on stage, oh my gosh, behind stage, I would have like a panic attack, or just be like, oh my God, I can't do this, no matter how much we practice. So, and then I'd go on stage and be fine. But I think it just got to a point where I knew that this is really what I wanted to do. And I think I've resonated with me with the other women speaking, sometimes like typically as well in Guyanese culture, your parents, they really want you to be academic and, go to uni, like doesn't matter what you do, but just go to uni. And while that is good, I think it kind of took away from me. I just kind of thought, okay, I could do music on the side, and, I'll go to uni and I'll get a job and things like that. But the more I've tried to like steer away from it, the closer I was drawn to it, I felt. So last in 2020 actually, I went back to vocal coaching, and I met a really amazing vocal teacher. So she helped me sort of find my voice again and really like harness it, really like it. Like smiling so much because I think at one point I just thought, okay, this is like my voice that I'm working with, but she's taught me so much, and like my voice is just amazing now. I love it. I'm really critical of myself as well. So before I'd just be like, no, I'd record things and I'd be like, hate it, not gonna put it out. But working with her gave me the confidence to actually record and release my first song. And since then it's just been like, that was my first actual piece recorded and written and released. And since then I just feel like everything's been flowing like in terms of creating more music. Like I've got a lot in store coming out. I literally just before this call as well submitted a single to be released on the 27th of February. it's been in the works for a while, so I'm so glad that that's all done. So yeah.
If there's a youngster here in the audience, what would you tell them in terms of how to make it in music? Because I don't understand it. I literally was like, especially in England, because it used to be that everybody listened to Top of the Pops, and then that was that's what gave people kind of a way into what music was popular at the time. And like now, I'm just like, social media just means like you could all be in your separate worlds listening to music, and I'm just wondering, like, how do you promote your work? You know, how do people know you're out there? How do you get yourself out there?
I think it's sort of an amalgamation of things. So as you said, like, you know, social media now basically have the reach to the whole world, and it's just about, I think everyone does get wrapped up in, oh, okay, I'm going to be a singer, so I need to have this particular image and I need to look this way. But it's like you're doing that and you kind of fall in line with everyone else who's doing the same thing. So as cliche as it sounds, I think definitely sort of stay true to yourself and just keep listening to yourself as opposed to everyone else. I think throughout the process of releasing music, I think sometimes I will share little things with people just to get feedback before it's out, and then someone might say something to you. Like with me, someone said something to me and I'm like, oh my god, I'm not going to release this, what am I doing, just forget it all. But really, you know, there's a million strangers, billions of strangers in the world who may listen to your music, they may not like it, they might, but there's also going to be a lot of people that will. So I think, yeah, definitely just, you know, it's hard to sort of wrap your head around, oh, okay, I'm going to be a singer and put myself out there. So I think just making small steps, like I said, when I got back in touch with my vocal coach, that was enough for me at first. I mainly done it in lockdown as a stress release because we were all, you know, stuck at home, and I thought, well, I've got all this free time, like let me do something to take my mind off being stuck in the house. And then that was enough. And then she mentioned to me that she does songwriting, so then I was like, okay, I songwrite, so let me share with her. And then that was enough. And then, you know, I was singing my own songs and I thought, okay, this is great, like I'm comfortable with this. But like you know, you're reading about in my bio, I think throughout my entire life, like any time I've been through, you know, good times, bad times, all in between, there's always like a soundtrack to that from, you know, and you'll hear that song again in the future and it brings you back to that time when you went through whatever you were going through. And I personally like love having that feeling, and I just sort of felt the need to start creating that feeling for other people, and I just followed that feeling. So I think, you know, it can be overwhelming to want to put yourself into it, but just follow your feelings. Like if you're a creative in the industry and, you know, you're writing and stuff, keep following the writing, and that might lead you to either, you know, writing songs for other people or writing your own songs. But yeah, I just think don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't worry about, you know, if you put a song out, how many views you're going to get, all of that stuff. I think if you're genuinely creating, like, you know, from your heart and from a good place, it's only going to reach who you intend it to reach. So yeah.
How do you manage though with this sort of I mean, I always think one of the issues with being creative is you also need a kind of business head as well.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, like, how have you managed that side of things? Because have you got like an agent or somebody who deals with all of the kind of non-creative, you know, or maybe I should say it's creative in a different way. But yeah, how do young people who are really just totally focused on the creative side, how do they deal with the practical kind of side of it?
Yes, there is a lot behind the actual creative stuff that I did not know about. And at first I was pretty much just freestyling it, winging it as I met an obstacle on Google, on YouTube, like, what do I do for all of these things? But I actually met a girl about, I think it's like nearly 10 years ago now. I used to work in Harrods, and I met her there. She's the Guyanese girl as well. And yeah, we just hit it off straight away. We remained friends. Even I left, she left, but we were really close. And she now works in the music industry as well. And I remember when we were working in Harrods, she was like, oh, I want to work, you know, for recording labels. I want to do A&R and stuff like that. But back then I was so shy, I didn't even mention that I sang or anything. I was like, yeah, that's amazing. And then I remember I played her my single and she was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. She's the one who actually convinced me to shoot a video and release it properly. I was literally just going to chuck it up on SoundCloud and leave it there. which is nothing wrong with that, but that's where I was at that stage. But she pushed me to do everything the proper way, and then she wanted to get into artist management, and she just called me one day and was like, you need to let me manage you. And I was like, okay. So we had a conversation about, you know, how things would work, and I think it's really important, whoever you're choosing to do that with, that you're able to, you know, completely communicate transparently, because there are some conversations that we'll have which are like outside of our friendship, but I don't take anything personally, and I understand, like, I know her, I trust her, she's got my best interest at heart. It's the same mutual feeling. So yeah, she now thankfully takes care of all the admin stuff, like even putting out the song, you have to go through distribution companies and things like that, and I didn't have a clue about any of that stuff. So I'm really grateful for her. She's helped me on that side, and I've also ended up having a lot of friends who are, you know, photographers, videographers, things like that, who've been able to help me with, you know, the filming, the promo shots, all of that. So I think, yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming. There is a lot of help on YouTube and things like that, but if you can get someone, if you find someone that you know and you can trust, I would say it's definitely helpful, because there are some times where it does get a bit overwhelming. And I think when you're working with other creative people, if there's any issues between you, because you spend so much time with those creative people, they kind of get really familiar with you, like they think you guys are friends. So when it comes to having those conversations, it's like, I'll just leave that to her, and she does it amazingly. So yeah.
No, because I find that's the hardest thing for creative people, is finding someone that they can trust and that can do
100%.
Yeah. So well done for doing that. Where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
I mean, ideally at the top of Billboard charts, but I don't know, I just think
you're gonna be up there with Rihanna, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I don't know, I think I've been following a lot more like my intuition, like how I feel, just being really clear on what I want my goals to be musically. Like I said, I just, as much as it would be nice to be, you know, charting and winning awards and things like that, I think I just want to connect with people, like on a grand scale, because I think collective connecting is so important, especially now when I think, you know, we're also, even with lockdown, didn't help pushing us all towards like technology so much more. So I think I miss like having like the human connections of things. And I think, you know, even my first song that I released, talking to people how they interpret it, I wrote it for a completely different reason, but when I speak to people, asking them how they receive the song and how it helps them through situations I literally would never even have thought of, I was thinking of it from my perspective. So yeah, in 10 years I would hope to be just healing people with my music, really, and connecting with them. And ideally, I would love to be, you know, performing with the people that I'm touching through my music and things like that. Hopefully, just traveling around the world singing, basically.
That's a great ambition. I hope you get there. I can see Elfrida has had Elfrida's your auntie, right?
Yes, she is.
But I'll just say to Elfrida, if you could bear with us, we're going to ask questions at the end, just so that we can get the program going smoothly, and then we'll definitely come to you at the end. But thank you so much, Erica, and good luck. So now I'm going to move to, I think we're just going to have a general kind of chat. I'm going to see if I can spotlight all of you. I don't know how this is going to work, but I'll see if I can get this to work. How do I pin everybody? Let me see. Add a spotlight. There we go. Let's hope this works. I need to add another spotlight. And Natalie.
I've got a question for her.
Spotlight. Rod is asking me to add Marissa. Why not? Absolutely. Let's add you, Marissa. We're here. Okay. So, what questions do you have for Marissa?
Number 5.
Oh. Mr. Westmaas has a question for you. Oh, okay. We're not there yet. We're going to play a little game at the end to see how Guyanese you all are, right? But it's a choice. You get a choice of 3 answers, so it's not as It's not as scary as it sounds. But so I just wondered, like, if you can put your hands up if you've all actually been to Guyana. So I know Salina's been to Guyana. Alieda? No. If you take yourself off mute, Alieda. But so no, not yet. Do you have any plans to go?
I do, I really do. So hopefully in the next couple of years I'll travel out there, but unfortunately not yet.
Somebody's put something in the chat that says GT noise. So yeah. For those of you that have been, what was it about Guyana that you most liked? So if I start with Salina, what did you like the most?
Family. I went once, I was 8, but I got to, not only did I get to meet family, but I saw where my mum grew up. You know, the family house. I have such good memories. It was 6 weeks of a summer and it was amazing. And also, you know, like so certain things we did. So we went to these pools and they were pools. They were outside Guyana, outside Georgetown. And they were the color of Coca-Cola. We called them, we went swimming in them, and I guess it's from the minerals, but the water was like swimming in Coca-Cola, and all around us was this sort of, you know, this forest,
Blackwater Creek.
Maybe it could be, but we called them the Coca-Cola pools, and I did a drawing of these Coca-Cola pools, and I was Googling, like trying to find pictures of the Coca-Cola pools, and I said to my mum, what are they? Why can't I find the Coca-Cola pools? And she said, that's not what they're called. But that's what we called them, the Coca-Cola pools. And then coconut water out of coconut, where they'd hack it off with a machete and you'd stick a straw in it and then you get that jelly.
Yeah.
Never had that before.
It's so nice you're saying about the Coca-Cola, because I've always thought that Kaieteur Falls could make a fortune for being the center of Coca-Cola adverts. I mean, it literally is just like Coca-Cola water pouring out. It should be, I don't know, it's a missed opportunity for sure. Erica, what about you? You were born in Guyana, right?
I was, yeah.
Are you a GT girl?
I feel like I am at heart. Like, I think even here, what's annoying is that when I came here, I had like a Guyanese accent, but obviously, so I went to like a British school, and some of the teachers like obviously couldn't understand what I was saying, and they used to tell me that I had to speak like a proper English, and then obviously slowly my accent just disappeared. But yeah, I think there's so many things, like family for sure. I've got quite a big family there. We have our family house, like that's where my dad lives, so I usually stay there. Just millions of memories. Going to Kaieteur Falls is amazing, like one of the best experiences ever.
Doesn't your accent come back though whenever you're with family?
Well, when I'm there, when I was sort of, I think up until, I want to say like 13, 14, I'd go there for the whole of summertime. And eventually like it would start coming back. So I'd be around like my cousins and stuff. But yeah, when I go back now, it's, you know, I haven't been back for a few years, but it's been only like, you know, 1 or 2 weeks. So it's not enough time for it to come back. But I'll say certain things. But yeah, I was planning to go, as I'm sure everyone, you know, before COVID, and just haven't made it back yet. But yeah, and I think like the food there, because you know, there's a big Guyanese community in the UK, so I do get, you know, bits of palauri and dal puri and stuff like that. But whenever I go to Guyana, my dad always meets me at the airport with cheese rolls from Bakewell, the most amazing bakery, and also palauri from Shanta's. Like that's all I can literally taste it right now. It's amazing. So
I have to say, for anyone who's missing Guyanese food here in the UK and can't cook it, I have to give a shout out to Auntie Faye in Elephant and Castle at Kaieteur Kitchen. Delicious food. Natalie, can I ask you, what about you? What's your favorite thing? What's your favorite memory of Guyana?
I have this really vivid memory, which I think it was always when you were driving from I think it's different now, but when you were driving from the airport, the smell of sugarcane at night. I don't know if anyone remembers that, like when you used to drive.
That's by Diamond.
Yeah, so I think I remember that was like one of the first things I would smell, like when I was kind of like, we were driving from the airport at night, and that was like one of the formative like memories of Guyana, just like you smelling the sugar cane on the air. It was really yeah, it was just like, it's quite emotive, because it was like, oh my, so it felt like, you know, you'd arrived there and it was exciting. I don't know, I think I guess to give a bit of background, I went to Guyana every few years until I was 16. And I haven't been back, so that's about 15 years now, and I really want to get back. My parents go every few years, usually every few years, but I just haven't got back. I was meant to go in 2020, and then obviously COVID. But I think for me the main memory of Guyana was kind of my granddad's house, and I guess doing so much stuff outside, like I think we went to Baganara, which was really cool, and kind of I remember we were like kind of walking through waterfalls and in the rainforest, and at that resort there were like monkeys that were like knocking on the window in the morning. So I think as a child it was just, and even when I guess when I was like, you know, a bit older, getting 15, 16, the memories are so much to do with, I think, enjoying so much outside activities, and everyone feeds you. Like I remember every house we would go to, like you were getting like 3 lunches, and I remember as kids we're like, how do we tell people to stop feeding us? Like we're full, we can't eat anymore. But I think so much of that also is, for me, I think pervasive memory and sentiment I have when I think of Guyana, it's community. In a way, when I was a kid, I think a feeling of belonging I had there that there were times at school I just didn't feel like I had here, is something like quite emotive, and that's kind of changed as I've grown up. I've kind of, you know, found in inverted commas my own tribe. Like I have some of my best friends from school, university, but there was a period of time where I felt like I almost probably romanticized it, that feeling of community was associated with Guyana. And I guess this, where I was at school, like I had a lot of Indian friends, but I wasn't Indian enough because I wasn't from India, and otherwise everyone else, there were kind of like different cultures, a big Jewish community, a big Indian community, a big like English community, but I didn't really fit into any of those kind of categories. And so I think that's why I think of Guyana, it's the idea of community, even though I've never, I guess, lived there. But I think my family, and we have a strong Guyanese community in the UK with like family and friends, and it is always that sentiment of community that I think resonates.
Yeah, I think community is huge. Like if you can have community here, then it helps keep you connected. But I love you reminding us about that smell of it's molasses. You know, when you're driving along and you're going past Banks, DIH, and through Diamond, it's so strong, that smell.
But I think I heard that like those fields aren't there anymore or something, so the smell isn't the same, or it's not present when you drive. I don't know.
It's definitely present. I think it's the you can smell the production of it from the molasses being brewed into beer, and also the rum factories there. But Marissa, what about you in terms of your experience of Guyana?
Yeah,
what's your favorite?
So I used to go every year, I guess, like everyone, since I was 4. My house is very Guyanese, as you know, and I think it was the opposite, because I didn't have an accent like you were saying, but I would say a lot of Guyanese. And I remember talking to my friend in year 1, and it was like I was counting it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and she was like, not tree. And I was like, I don't understand. And then it was only recently, actually, I said to my friends, let's just flip the matras, because my mum would used to say like matras. I'm like, yeah, let's flip the matras. And like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, the matras. And he was like, you mean mattress? And it's only recently I realised that it's not actually like how they say it here. So yeah, I mean, going to Guyana, I have vivid memories of like playing with my cousins for hours, or like when the when the rain would shower down, and then you'd run outside with like a soap and you're like, I'm gonna quickly shower in the rain, or just like just random stuff. And the freedom, it was quite free as a kid to just go out and run and play and do whatever. And yeah, and as everyone else said as well, the food and stuff like that. So yeah, I used to go and spend the whole 6 weeks holiday once a year. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's so nice. So what I want to ask now, I want to move to Alieda again. Am I pronouncing your name correctly, by the way?
Yes, you are.
I am. Okay, I just wasn't sure. So I wanted to ask you, what is it that connects you to Guyana? How do you feel connected? I mean, is it, yeah, you tell me how you feel about your identity.
Sure, I feel very, very connected, and obviously I haven't been, and so don't have the memories that others have spoken of, and can't wait to create my own. But I don't feel any less Guyanese. I still feel very. I was brought up as, you know, by Guyanese, as a Guyanese woman, and eating the food and the traditions that we have, whether that's, you know, we just had Christmas and we had our pepper pot and we had our garlic pork and we had everything. And that's been, you know, how I've grown up, you know, just from a young child. And I've heard stories of Guyana from my grandmother, from my aunts, uncles, my mum. And as everyone else has said, you know, there's a really, really strong Guyanese community in England. And so it was recently my birthday, and some of my aunts and uncles were talking about the parties we used to have and all the food we'd have there. And so I definitely have a strong Guyanese identity. And I was brought up as, you know, you are a Guyanese woman as well as my Jamaican side. And actually so I'm getting married this year, and a couple of months ago with my grandma, who's sadly passed since, but you know, we were talking about the kwekwe and these traditions, and we were looking at videos on YouTube, and she was explaining all of that and explaining the culture. And I think, you know, I definitely will miss the stories and that richness and sense of Guyana that I got from my grandma, because she just bring up these random things I haven't heard previously, and listening to those stories, I really kind of felt like part of that.
I have to say, if you want any Guyanese element to your wedding, just off the offhand, if you want that, you must connect with Michelle Santawa, because she you know, like, do any of you know like the traditional songs like Neighbor? I'm not going to even try and sing it. Michelle is the person to sing it who's online, but she's recently become a celebrant as well. So I know that she could bring in all the Guyanese side to it. So maybe worth having a chat with her as well. Even if it's during the reception or something, it might be a great idea. But I want to know from you though, what kind of Guyanese words or did you hear? I mean, was there anything that your mother said in the house that you were like, oh, here she goes?
I hear my mum, my aunt, they always go, oh, skites. That's something that they always and then there was one, and it's and always heard this growing up, it's hand wash hand, make hand come clean. And so that's another kind of phrase that they used to say, you know, working together, help someone out, it benefits you more. Gosh, there are so many, you know, calling her one of our family friends Bud, which is kind of Indo-Guyanese for brother. And there are lots and lots of different phrases that I've heard, and I'm sure if someone says, I can hear, you know, if someone's passing and they say something, I'm like, they're Guyanese, and I'll tell my partner, they're Guyanese. I can hear it. I can even hear the accent, or they've used a phrase that's very Guyanese.
It must be a thing. That's what Rod does everywhere we go. He's like, he has his Guyanese radar out, and if we're on the tube, he's like, you're Guyanese. You're like, here we go. He's always spotting the guy. As for the word skites, yeah, Michelle is pointing out that's hiding a cuss word, but it's one of my favorite. I just love the sound of skites. It's so cool. Erica, what words do you hear in your home?
Yeah, the same that Alieda mentioned, I've heard, and like my mum always says, when you miss me, I'm gone. Like everyone used to say that in Guyana. And like if I was being told off and stuff, obviously you're not allowed to cut your eyes, but my aunties or Not so much my parents actually, but usually my aunties will say, when your eyes pass me, and I'll just be like, okay. But yeah, I think it's hard. Like there's so many little like minor things, like Alieda was saying, that you can hear someone say, or obviously when you're in Guyana, you'll hear it.
I have to encourage
so specific.
all of you to record your family at some point and ask. And,
I know.
And record
I need to.
their experiences.
I also have a video of me actually when I was, I don't know, I think I must have been about 3, and I had a lot of attitude as a Guyanese child. And if people used to take too long to say stuff to me, I'd say, tell me something fast. And there's a video of me literally with all the attitude, and I'd just think, who's this girl? Because I'm so polite now.
Yeah. Michelle's just reminding me, she put in the chat their morning neighbor. I don't know if you heard that morning neighbor. I don't want your knife in morning. I always love that. I used to really like that tune. Salina, what about in your home? Any Guyanisms?
The sucking your teeth, Cal?
Oh yeah. Okay, let me hear you. Have you got a good suck? Do you do it? Suck your teeth?
I can suck my teeth good, but I'm not doing it.
You're not doing it now.
But I think, do you know, I have to say, like, it's quite, we didn't grow up eating Guyanese food.
Okay.
Or listening to Guyanese music or Guyanese culture. Like it was sort of a distant thing. So like my mother would get on the phone to people to family in Guyana, and then all of a sudden her voice would change and we couldn't understand what she was saying. Yeah. Or I'd get on the phone to people in Guyana and I'd be like, what they saying? We don't understand them. It was a very, like, we didn't, like, we really were very English in our upbringing. So like for me, as part of like what I've been doing with my artwork and just my life, is kind of a bit of it. It's about reconnecting with things and finding those sort of, you know, stories. What happened in lockdown as well, and it was a bit before lockdown. So I got married as well. My wedding cake had a whole bottle of Guyanese rum in it because I made it myself. But my auntie came from Canada over, and I hadn't seen her since I was 8 years old. But since that, and over lockdown, we were talking to her every week. And somehow social media has been great for us. And actually the lockdown, I've you know, just through doing this, I've connected a lot more with my family. I connected with family I didn't even know I had. And my mum is the oldest of 10 children. My dad is the youngest of 10 children. Like I have a big family, but most of them are not here. You know, they're all over like the Caribbean, America, Canada, but I don't really have a lot of family here at all. So I didn't have that. We didn't, you know, my auntie in Canada talks about like all the women would come together and make mitai and make food together and cook together. I didn't do that. We didn't do this. It was not part of our, I didn't have all these aunties. You know?
I know lockdown's been huge to connecting people. Yeah. I have to say, my favorite thing is mitai. So, and Joan Plummer, I don't know if she's online here, but I was like, oh, did Joan please make me some mitai for Christmas? And she did, which is really nice.
I haven't had that in ages, and you just saying that has like given me a blast from the past. I also forgot to mention as well that I saw my dad put a message in it. Can't believe I forgot that I always make him bring back green mango, because you can't really get green mango here. So I always, yes, yeah, Neville was Neville. So I always used to make him like get loads, like ridiculous amount, because me and my brothers, like it will start fights in our house, so we all need our own portion of green mango.
When my mum would come back from Guyana, or anyone came back from Guyana, they would bring mitai. Like big bag, and I would like secretly like sneak it because it was so good. And red hot pepper sauce. Now I was brought up eating, you know, roast dinners with Yorkshire pudding, so like red pepper sauce was like this, and my mum would have like, she'd be the only person that ate it. And then guava jelly.
Yeah, guava jelly is a big one, but yeah, Rod's very good at making guava jelly. I have to say, Erica, what's your dad's call name?
What's his call name?
Yeah.
On here?
No. You know, like in Guyana, somebody might be called
yeah, everyone just calls him Biss.
Biss.
Or Miss, yeah, well, like it's different. Some people call him Mr. December.
Okay.
And then like all colloquial people will just be like, hey, Biss. Even in like our family, everyone will say Biss. Like my brothers, I don't know if he knows this, but sometimes instead of them saying dad, we'll say Biss. But I don't call him that. I always say dad because I feel like
you've just let that out the back, because I didn't know that. I only know him as Eggy.
Oh, I do not know him as that name, so I'll be asking him about that.
No, Neville's gonna come. This is Rod. Rod is in the background telling me, no, school was Eggy.
Oh, thanks for that. I'm gonna ask him about it.
You'll have to ask him. Yeah. Natalie, what words do you hear in your family? Do people use a lot of Guyanese Creole, or?
I think there wasn't a ton, but there were definitely some of the ones that have already been said or featured. I pass was a big one. Not as in, like, I think I heard that growing up. And I think one of the ones that was particularly applied to me and my brothers, it was if you can't hear, you have to feel. That was common. That happened the whole time.
You're getting licks.
Yeah, that too. What else? Oh, you're fast. Because like I asked too many questions. Like your fast was a common one. But yeah, so I think definitely a lot of the ones that have already been said as well kind of featured, especially like when everyone was together, like at a family gathering. I think everyone's accent all of a sudden becomes way stronger.
Okay, well, listen, I want to give the audience time to ask questions, so I'm gonna very quickly, I don't know if you guys have got a pen and paper on you. If you haven't, can you grab a pen and paper?
I don't. I'll grab one.
And we've got 5 multiple choice questions, and whoever gets the most questions right gets a copy of Auntie Joyce's book called The Proverbs of Guyana Explained. And it's a brilliant book. So it's worth trying to, but no cheating, no Googling, none of that, or phoning up Guyanese relatives going, hey, or WhatsApping. So is everybody ready?
Yeah.
No, Alieda's, she's not quite ready. Oh, nearly 1 minute. Okay. Let me just see. Oh, Rod, you got the last question. Okay, I'll add that. Okay, so the first question is, have I got the first question? Okay, a taking a 5. A taking a 5. Is that A, taking a break? Is that B, taking a 5 Guyana dollar note? Or is it C, walking for 5 miles? Okay, so a taking a 5. A, taking a break. B, taking a Guyana $5, or C, walking 5 miles. Okay, if you all put your answer down, just give me a thumbs up when you've done it. Yep. Okay, the next one is 4-day morning. 4-day morning. 4-day morning. Is that the morning of the 4th day? That's A. Is it another way of referring to the moment before day breaks? Or is it C, 4 o'clock in the morning? 4-day morning. Said in a very bad Guyanese accent. My accent is bad. Okay. And then, you ready for the next one? So what is a gorlin? Gorlin, is it A, a type of bird, B, a type of fishing net, or C, having the goal to be cheeky? So a gorlin, what is a gorlin? A, a type of bird, B, a type of fishing net, C, having the goal to be cheeky. Ready for the next one? Okay. So hang on, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. Okay, so the 4th one, you're getting true? You're getting true? is that A, is everything okay? B, did you get to the truth? Or C, can you climb through that space? Okay, so you're getting true? Okay. Is A, is everything okay? You know, you're doing all right? Do you need any help? That kind of thing. B, you know, have you sorted out getting to the truth? Have you got the truth? Or is it B, can you climb through that space? Are you getting true? Okay. And then the last question is, which this is Rod's question, which really I think all of you have already answered it. Your eyes pass me. Is it A, you drove past by my house? Is it B, I found your glasses? Or is it C, you disrespected me? Your eyes past me. Oh gosh. So basically we had 5 questions and 5 answers.
I think I have to go back to Guyana school.
So let me just quickly.
For number 3, what was A and B again?
So for number 3 was, what is a garlin? Garlin. A, is it a type of bird? B, is it a type of fishing net? Or C, is it having the goal to be cheeky? What is a garlin? Right. So okay, so you need, I'm gonna read all the answers now. So I've taken a 5. I'll go around the room actually. So I've taken a 5. Who wants to answer this one? Okay, we'll start with you, Salina. What did you say?
A?
A? Taking a break?
Yeah, taking a break.
Is the correct answer. Taking a 5
Yeah.
is like, I'm taking 5 minutes. Woo!
Have I got one?
You've got one. So just make sure you all mark whether you were, you know, is that a 1 or a 0 next to that? And you're going to have to tot up your marks. So
that 5 minutes could be an hour.
And that 5 minutes could be an hour. Yeah, there's Rod. Taking a 5 could be several days later. 4-day morning. Erica, what did you think it was?
I didn't know this one, but I guess, what was option B? I put down B.
So option B is another way of referring to the moment before dawn breaks.
Oh no, it wasn't that. That was not the one. I think, what was A?
A was the morning of the 4th day.
Oh yeah, that one is what I chose. But that's one I've not heard before.
Or C, 4 o'clock in the morning.
I chose A.
Marissa's got her hand up. What do you think, Marissa?
Is it B?
It's B, yeah. It's B. 4-day morning. Salina's got that one right. She's looking happy. Okay, so the next one is, what is a garlin? Garlin. Is that how you pronounce it, Rod? Garlin? Garlin?
Yeah.
I'm leading you down the garden path, probably with my own pronunciation being come up.
Yes.
So, Alieda, do you know what the answer is?
So I guess A, a bird. It sounds like, just from how you asked, what is a garling? So I said
A garlin. Okay, and A is the correct answer. It's actually, you know, when you're, well, in Guyana they have these white birds that look like egrets. Well, they are egrets, yeah. But yeah, they're garlands basically. And then, okay, so then 4, which is my favorite one, you getting true? I had no idea what it was, and it's just reminding me of sitting in, I was in the TV station in Guyana waiting to see Batambra, and I was sitting down and this lady came up to me and she said, "You getting true?" And I was thinking, what am I getting through? I couldn't work out what she meant, but anyhow, I realized afterwards. So is it A? Who wants to answer that one? Natalie, what did you get?
Well, I'm going to assume now it's A.
That's the correct answer. Yeah, A is basically kind of general saying for is everything okay? You all right? Do you need any help? Kind of thing. It's definitely not did you get to the truth, and it's definitely not can you climb through that space. So that was that. So yeah, A for that one. And then the final question, your eyes pass me, Was it A, you drove past my house, B, I found your glasses, or C, you disrespected me?
C, you disrespected me.
Yeah, you're rude. You're rude, bad. So yeah, so that was C. So I'm gonna go around the room and you can tell me what your scores were. So Salina?
5.
You got 5. You're kidding me.
I so guessed.
Oh wow, that is really good. Erica, what did you get?
I got 4.
You got 4. Alieda?
I got 5.
You're kidding me. Oh my gosh. Natalie?
4.
4. And Marissa?
I got 4 as well.
You
It
got
was
4.
the third one that threw me off because I wrote A, then I scratched it out and wrote B.
Okay. Well, I know, Marissa, we sent you a copy of that book.
Oh yeah,
before
no, I don't
anyway,
need one.
so you're okay. You don't need another one. So basically, I'm going to send a book to Salina and to Alieda, and all you. Oh, yeah, it was Alieda who got 5, and you haven't been to Guyana. That's just like that is like congratulations. Both of you need to send me your addresses, and I will post you a copy of the book.
I'm just happy I don't have to go back to Guyanese school. I passed.
You passed. Congratulations. So I'm going to open it now. I don't know if anybody in the audience wants to ask questions. If you do, just pop up your hand. I know Elfrida had her hand up at one point. So if Elfrida's there and you want to you want to say something, please come online and say something.
I'm sorry. Hi. Thank you, Juanita.
Well, there you are. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us, Elfrida.
Can you see me finally? Because I can now see me.
Yes,
finally.
I can see you.
But lovely to join you, though I was very late, and to see my wonderful niece and her wonderful co-discussants here. Why was I putting my hand up? To say to Erica dear, that she would not have remembered that her grandmother, her paternal grandmother, that's my mother, when she was quite young, was very gifted at the piano. And they used to do, as they do now, the LRSM, the London Royal School of Music exams. And she was like two grades or so above her age at quite a young age, you know. So she did that for quite a long while. And then afterwards, that was discontinued, but she was quite talented. And she passed that talent on, not to me, I'm afraid, though I love dancing, but that was passed on to Erica's father, my brother, Neville, who used to play the steel band and QC band and used to do play on the guitar and so on. And he's passed it on to Erica, I'm happy to say. So you would not have remembered about grandma. But
you got all the artistic skills, Auntie Frida. I can't save my life, but she's
thank you, darling.
Amazing artist.
Thank you, dear. Art is all over. From all these wonderful people talking. I love the lady with the paintings, and I miss a lot of the rest of you, but of course, wonderful stories. And of course, all I want to say is all the wonderful sayings. The one that always tickles me sometimes still is when you hear somebody say, "Boy, go and bathe your skin," which means you know that, right, Juanita?
Go and bathe your skin.
Go bathe your skin means go and have a bath. You know, you need to have a bath, but we say go bathe your skin. So, you know, it's literally the skin has to be thing, whatever. So there's so many witticisms and so on. But anyway, so that was basically what I wanted to say, and apologizing for joining so late because I had bizarre goings on with my reconstituted laptop and my Zoom account. So I was not trying to be, you know, inattentive to come to join you so late. But thank you very much, Juanita and Rod, for the organizing of the event.
Thank you. Great to see you.
You too.
So by the way, while we're here, hang on a minute. Have I lost Marissa? Where did Marissa go? Oh, you
I'm here. My internet went out and it threw me out. And
oh no. Okay,
I'm here.
Back in. You back on with the spotlight. So what? So hang on a minute. So Salina and Alieda. Okay, you're sending me your addresses. Can everyone, though, please send addresses? Because Michelle Asantua, who is the is a publisher, and she's got a publishing company called Way with Words, but she's also a fantastic writer and novelist and poet, as well as many other strings to her bow. And she has said that if you send addresses, she will send you the Mamaloo Tales, which is her mother's memories of Guyana and kind of like little folk tales and stuff. I've got the book here somewhere. So you'll get a copy of this book. Dun, dun, dun. So you get that. So look at that. You see all the benefits of coming on Guyana Speaks. Now, I think somebody else had their hand up. It was Nina H. Did you want to pose a question?
Well, who knew there were so many Guyanese women hiding all over the UK? Where have you ladies been?
You know, Nina, I have to say there were a lot of Guyanese ladies to choose from, and I've actually decided this is a really important part of Guyana Speaks going forward. We are going to be bringing on young, successful, and just young Guyanese people to find out what their experiences are of living in Britain. But I have to say, and we're going to have one that just focuses on the boys as well coming up.
Okay,
but
I think I only recognize 3 names in there. I think I've seen Marissa perform once at a Guyanese event, probably pre-COVID. I'm sure I've seen Michelle's name all over the place.
Okay.
And there was somebody else. To the lady that works at the Bank of England.
Yeah, Alieda Moore.
Hello.
I take my hats off to you. I met a young lady in 2019. She was African. I can't remember which country. I think she did her degree in economics, and she went there and she left it and went right back to where she was working before. So somehow she missed you in the midst.
Yeah,
but I think it's a fantastic job. I used to work the city, and I mean, okay, maybe things are different now. I'm from a law background. I used to work as a legal secretary in a lot of those firms. And I just find, although I'm born here, I think the best thing my parents ever did was sent me to Guyana for 5 years. I've come back, and when I think I'm actually born here, the stigma, the racism, the sexism, I'm done. I can't deal. I don't see why, if us as Black people who've been here for so many centuries, and I know a lot of the English people got a little bit of education during George Floyd. We're doing too much fighting. We shouldn't have to. It shouldn't be about the color of our skin. It should be about what we can put on their table and what they can offer us in return for our services. So for me, I'm trying to go down the self-employed freedom route. I've got an online store. I do a bit of catering. But yeah, the whole upbringing in the UK has left a mark. That's my contribution for today.
Thank you. And in fact, Nina, it's one of the reasons why I actually convened this session, because I'm really fascinated by, I hear so many stories of youngsters who never quite achieve their ambitions or their aspirations, or their abilities, never actually managed to fulfill them, their abilities. But every time I was looking for somebody Guyanese, I haven't met anybody yet Guyanese who hasn't managed to, like of the youngsters I was looking for, everybody seems to have done phenomenally well. So I didn't even have to think about, oh, who am I selecting? Literally. And I'm really fascinated by this, because I think it says something. I mean, I think one of you actually spoke about, I think maybe it was Alieda, you were talking about there was no, or Natalie, no room for failure. Like your parents were really, really pushing you. And that seems to be the theme for Guyanese people, is that parents don't really care what the environment is. This environment can be hard, but it doesn't change your ability to succeed within it. And I love that. I don't know, Salina, did you want to come in and comment on that?
I think part of like me kind of looking back to my family story, my family have all worked really hard through generations. like they've really like embraced new things. It was part of what made me want to look at that story of indenture, because you know my family came here to England it was difficult coming here. There was a lot of obstacles that they had to get past to be in this country, but my family also had those obstacles in Guyana, and coming from from India to that. So I think looking back, I think there's been a lot of hardships that they have gone through, and I feel very grateful for all of that hard work. But I think it also sets the tone for my own values, and my own hard work and my own desire. A lot of people, a lot of us, I think everyone here has talked about how we want to kind of share our knowledge, our talent, our own learnings with other people. There's a lot of generosity of spirit, I think, in this group, and I think that's part of those values that I've learned from my mum.
I would like to see more I mean, I don't know how you connect to the wider Caribbean community, but there needs to be a way where we're fostering this kind of self-belief amongst everyone. This idea that it doesn't matter whether people, I mean, people are going to be racist, let's face it, they're going to be racist, but it's that belief that you shouldn't allow that to let you fail. You have to kind of go beyond that and believe in yourself. But Alieda, please come in. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think that's inherently Guyanese. When I look at, my family, but also the role models in the community around, and my mum went to bishops, and I just, the people, her friends, the people that I see and have grown up around, and the role models that I've had, I think that's just something that's inherently Guyanese. We're very proud. We get along. We believe. We have this inherent belief within ourselves, and we've got this confidence, but also this humbleness. And I think that's just been something that's been instilled in me from a really young age. And so we believe that we can. I think about my grandma, and she came from Wakenham, and I think about where her children are and where I am as her granddaughter. She's got a doctor, a teacher, a journalist. My uncle Roger was a journalist, an entrepreneur in terms of her children. I think there's no feelings of inferiority as a Guyanese person. And I think that's something that's been ingrained in me. And it sounds like, the panel and the people who joined from a very young age. So there's definitely something about being Guyanese, and the fact that, despite the hardships, despite what the world may throw our way, we're going to make it, and we're going to thrive.
Absolutely.
And I just want to get a point on that, actually, because I think what's interesting is, I guess, a lot of the experience of Guyanese people trying to, succeed in Guyana, but also of the diaspora, by, I think, definition, they were trying to optimize for success in the face of adversity, and that just becomes ingrained. I mean, the diaspora generally, and, working, even trying to kind of educate yourself and work in Guyana, or start a new life in Canada, the US, Britain, starting with nothing, without a network, in a lot of cases. I think in some cases that's kind of like my family and extended family's experience too, trying to work yourself up through professional networks and creating, again, your own community. That is where, kind of in the face of adversity, I think I found that Guyanese people usually, as a default, think outside the box. And that's as a result of having to always operate against levels of adversity. And I think that's also passed down. I think it's quite an interesting point.
No, thanks for that. And I just diverting very slightly, I just want to say the one thing I love about Guyana and the Guyanese is because it's such a small diaspora, you always find that you're connected in some way. So like, even though Alieda, I've never met you, but I've met your Roger. and in fact, I think Rod, you went to school with him. Yeah. So Rod, who's hiding in the background, went to school with him. Was he also a policeman? He was a radio DJ, journalist. What else did he do? I feel like he was a policeman at one point.
He was a journalist. He wasn't a policeman, but he was and he stayed in Guyana. My grandma and grandfather's children, one that stayed in Guyana for a really long while, and he was a journalist there.
Okay, brilliant. Oh well, he went to school with Rod, so he's like, yeah, expected Alieda to do well. Comes from that kind of good family. But actually, one of the things I think is really interesting is I'm guessing a lot of people had family whose parents either went to QC or went to Bishops. I'm wondering if the experience is different for people whose families didn't. Because I sort of feel like the attitudes that you're all expressing are attitudes that are very much ingrained into a lot of the top schools in Guyana, including Bishops and QC. But I'm wondering whether that would be different for people maybe outside of Georgetown or who didn't have the advantages of going to schools like that. But I don't know if anybody in the audience wants to comment on that. Are there any audience questions? I had.
Hi, can I just say? Yeah, can I just say a couple of words on that?
Yes,
it's very complex. Yeah, it's very complex because in some ways you could talk about the fact that QC and Bishops, which were, well, there were about 4 or so of the so-called top schools. You had QC Bishops, and then you had St. Rose's, which was Catholic, so to speak, and you had Saints, which is also to do with Catholic priests and so on. So there's a sense that you helped create an elite, because the best students who took that leveling off so-called exam at 10 plus or 11 plus, the best of those went to the places at QC and Bishops and so on. And the best of them were scholarship people, which meant, well, you didn't have to pay fees, of course, but there were, I think, other things. I think you got books free and so on. So there's this sense that, there's privilege or there's an elite. That may have been so. And given the state of Guyana then and even now, where we are still, and I would apply that to other things which I won't even mention here, where we're still trying to build, as far as I'm concerned, from the foundations, we're still battling to build, as far as I am concerned, a very solid, level playing field, as people say in that cliched way, balanced foundation where things are open to everyone. Those things take a long time to happen. But even at Bishops, I've come across my friends, because those of us who are still here in Guyana meet up every so often, though we haven't done since COVID really. And then it would come out after chit-chatting, lots of laughter, of course, which is the most relaxing thing, particularly for me. You scream with laughter, lots of jokes and so on. But there's sense that would come out of who had privileges or who was better treated because of who they were. And I would be sitting there with my jaw dropping open and saying, what are you talking about? Yes, because you were this and your father and your mother, or what, things like that. Not in an unpleasant way, but it struck me that sometimes people had those feelings that some people were better off and were treated differently. I personally had, when I went to Bishops, my father was a senior minister of government. It never occurred to me for a second that I was special in any way. My parents never brought us up like that. So, and I was always a very shy person, very skinny. So I went to Bishops feeling extremely, humble. So for people to feel that other people had special treatment, I don't know where that came from. So it shows you how, perhaps because of how you're brought up, the conditions you live in, people still go away thinking of things differently than they're intended to be understood. And yet at the same time too, we were very aware that there was some students who came from out of town, the villages on the east coast. There was one girl who had a nice bike. There were some dinky bikes we got in those days, some small wheel bikes. And she rode from the East Bank to Bishops High School every day. There were others who had to wait for whatever transportation. We didn't have many buses, I think. So there were people who often had serious challenges, and yet they still ended up doing very, very well. But it doesn't mean that they then went, it gave them an edge possibly, but I think a lot of other people who did not have that kind of education had other things maybe going for them and were still, which encouraged them. And there's that other level playing field going abroad. I feel people go abroad.
No, thank you, Elfriede. I think because Eric is agreeing with you there. He says that Guyanese, regardless of school, have all succeeded overseas and in all fields. And I would say that's really true, because I'm just thinking, I work on something called a Windrush project and I'm dealing with people who get caught up in the Windrush scandal and the issue of their British citizenship. And the Guyanese that I've met, even though they've been caught up in that, their response to it has just been mind-blowing. I mean, it has been amazing. I met a guy just a couple of days ago who's Guyanese, and he has been writing, although he's been homeless, he's been writing letters to all the MPs, and he doesn't have any sense at all that he's beneath them or that, I mean, he's just totally full of his own self-belief, and actually making huge changes despite his situation in how policy is being shaped here. So it's extraordinary. There is this amazing resilience amongst Guyanese people. So thank you so much, Elfrida. I want to quickly bring in Salina. Your mum had a comment, so if I can, may I bring in your mum?
I think what I wanted to say, I think somebody has already touched upon it, is that when Guyanese people came to this country and had their children, they wanted more for their children than they had themselves. So that they saw that with their children, their children are not going to be like them. They're not going to be the cleaners, although somebody has to do it. They're not going to wash people's clothes. They're not going to work in the kitchen. They want the children to do better, whether it's going to university, whether whatever it's available to them. So that's the aspiration that parents had for their children. You know, and whatever the parents did, the children looked up as well. They look upon their parents as role models, because those were the only role models they had. And parents had to succeed as well. They had to work, they had to do things to better the lives of their children. So that's what I want to say. My grandmother, she could read, she could write, she was illiterate. And my uncle, I remember my uncle taught her to write her name. And when she wrote her name, she was ecstatic. She was so excited that she could write her name. And she kept showing us, look, I can write my name, I can write my name. And I became a teacher like Alieda's mom. I was a teacher. And I went back to Guyana, I think it's about 5 years ago, and I opened a after school reading club for some children. And those children turned up. I had 17 children every single day coming to that reading club. They turned up religiously because they wanted to read. They wanted to better themselves. And they used to come after their after school lessons. So they had school, they had lessons at school, and they came to my reading club after their lessons because they had aspirations as well. They wanted to do better at reading. So, you know, so those things, it's built upon what's already there.
I have a question actually for you, Zina. I just wanted to acknowledge, Alison, I can see you have your hand up, so I'm going to bring you in shortly. But I just wanted to ask you, Zina, one of the things that I'm also fascinated by is how well Guyanese parents have managed to bring kids up in a place other than Guyana. I mean, it's a lot of parents find it difficult being able to relate to their children in a different country. And you know, I mean, I've noticed other communities within the UK, the gap between the parent and the children is quite large. And in a way, that's kind of created some problems where the children have kind of gone off the rails a bit. Or I'm wondering, how is it that Guyanese parents have managed to keep their, what are you doing that makes, where you've been able to actually nurture your children really positively?
Yes, I did, because I made sure they were always at home. I made sure I did their homework with them. I made sure that homework was done. I made sure that their reading was done. I read to them every single night, bedtime stories. And I became a single mom as well. I had 3 children, a single mom bringing up 3 children. And okay, so that, yeah, they went off the rails a bit. You know, I was terrified that they would all go on the wrong path, you know. I really was terrified that that would happen. I remember my son coming home one night. He was really late. I didn't know where he was. And I stood outside on the road and I said, "Where have you been?" And he said, I said to him, "I was just about to call the police." And he said to me, "Well, why didn't you?" You know, so they did run off the rail, but not in a terrible way, you know. As you can see from Salina, my son did well. My youngest daughter you know, but I did make sure that I invested in them. I invested all my extra time. I was doing a degree and still bringing up 3 children. So I invested all my time, all my extra time.
That's amazing.
I mean, my children.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you so much for your own testament. I mean, resilience is clearly what is the common theme in all of this. I'm going to bring in now Alison, but I just wanted to say oh gosh, look at this. Adele Sewell in the background's going, Juanita, the secret must be the virtual wild cane.
Can I just say one thing very quickly? Because I've been drawing about these hardships of my family, you know, sometimes it can feel really emotional to think, you know, of these really, really hard experiences that your grandmothers, your great grandmothers have been through. And when I said that to my mum, and I said, you know, like it humbles me because I'm an artist. This is a huge thing. It's a privilege to be an artist, to do these things. I'm not picking rice for other people. I'm covered in, you know, up to my knees in water every day, bent over, which is what my grandmother was doing. But when my mum said to me, you know, this is what we want for our children, that they have a better life and each generation has a better life, it really helped me to know that. It helps keep me humble, you know, and helps to connect me with my history, and I think that's really important.
Thank you for adding that. I just want to read Eric Phillips was here as well, and he just wanted to say kudos to Alieda. We're all so incredibly impressed. I'm just going to be impressed for the rest of the year. I'm so proud of all of you. But Alison, if I can bring you in, what did you want to share with us?
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Alieda's mum. I would like to touch in on the point that you made earlier, the question that you asked earlier initially, in terms of the experience of people, whether they went to Bishops, QC, St. Rose's, Saints, etc., and those of children who went to other schools. And what I want to say is that I don't think it mattered in that sense, because I think every single Guyanese family, for every Guyanese family, aspiration and resilience was the mainstay of how we were all brought up. And I look at my friends from wherever they are in Guyana, whichever schools they attended, and all of them have got aspiration and resilience as part of their makeup. And I think it's true for all Guyanese, from all walks of life, race, color, or creed. I don't think there's any difference. And I always feel very proud when I meet any Guyanese person or children, when we look at the panel here today, and where they are and how they've approached their lives, their careers, and how they feel about themselves. We never felt inferior in any way, never.
Alison, and can I get you to hold that? Can I get you to hold that point? One, I'm coming straight back to that because that's really interesting. But I noticed, Erica, you sent me a message. You've got to leave in a few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, so, sorry.
I know, and do you know what? We are supposed to finish at 5, but I'm enjoying the conversation so much.
I know, I am too. I can't jam-pack this Wednesday. I'm so Sunday. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to take this opportunity to ask everybody virtually to put your hands together and just say thank you to everyone that's here. It's been an absolutely amazing session, and thank you so much, Erica, for your really valuable input as well. And I think Marissa has to go.
I just wanted to say thank you, Juanita, and to everyone for letting me be a part of this panel, and it was lovely connecting with everyone. So anyone, like I said, my aim is to connect with everyone, so please reach out to me, feel free on social media or anything. I'm happy to talk and connect some more.
Absolutely, and I don't know if you and Marissa know each other, but I hope you two will connect as well.
We don't, yeah, I've got your email, Marissa,
be supports to each other.
I'll reach out to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all, and everyone have a blessed rest of your Sunday and an amazing week. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye. Bye.
I'm very sorry, but I'm going to have to jump off as well.
Okay.
Have you
got time for one more question?
I do have time for one more.
Okay, because what I just wanted to talk about in this last question is I want to know from each of you, including Alison, how do you all, how as a parent and how have you as individuals coped with the racism? Because I find so many people really struggle with racism, whether it's in employment or in society. Have you guys literally just kind of gone, well, that's there, but I'm not looking at it because I've got better things to be getting on with? Like, how do you deal with it?
I mean, I have to be honest, and I think potentially I have been very lucky or oblivious, one of the two, because I guess I was quite like, I've grown up around London, so it's very diverse anyway, and I've experienced, I guess, mostly just a lot of people very willing to help, provided you kind of, I guess it's the mentality that, so I mean, I guess I try and approach things with, which is, it was great that my family taught me this as well as kind of the school I went to. It was like, don't see, I guess, you know, it was separate from like racism, but if you don't see barriers, and then potentially you do just become oblivious to if anyone is trying to bring you down or discriminate, potentially you do just end up not seeing it. Because I feel like in my experience, that's kind of potentially what's happened. And that's, I know, a very lucky and individual experience, but I think it is also because I've grown up around London and it's incredibly diverse anyway.
Thank you for that, Natalie. I'm sort of wondering as well if part of it is because Auntie Joyce, who's now in her 90s, one of the things she said to me is she always saw adversity as an opportunity. And I'm just wondering if it's something about the way Guyanese deal with things is that they take it as a chance or an opportunity. They just flip it on its head and just get on with things. There seems to be something that's just about powering forward that is great. And as I know you need to go, so I just want to just say, you know, huge congratulations. Remind me when you're going to be on Dragon's Den. Is that this coming Thursday?
This coming Thursday, 3rd of February, 8 p.m.
We're okay. This coming 8 p.m. this coming Thursday. Everybody put that in their diary because we all know we're going to be watching you, right? And we'll promote it on the Guyana Speaks page, so we'll make sure that everybody does see it. But thank you so much and congratulations. Keep on going, and I hope you can come back at some point as well.
I also just wanted to say that all the other panelists have been incredibly inspiring to hear. You know, everyone's from such like everyone's gone into such a different discipline, but it is so interesting, like that thread of pushing forward and just creating opportunities out of, I guess, nothing is, it definitely seems to be like a thread that unites everyone, which is like really inspiring to see. And I've loved being a part of this event and would love to see, more like it.
Fantastic. Well, there'll definitely be one on boys later on in the spring, so we'll do another one. But don't forget as well to share your address so that we can send you a book.
I will do. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Can I come back to you, Alison? As a mother, how did you arm your daughter to be so like, she's like powerful? I mean, it reminds me of just, I don't know. I feel like there are there's no glass ceiling. There's no ceiling
there isn't a ceiling.
Yeah,
there isn't a ceiling. In our family, there isn't a ceiling, and that's how it always has been. You can achieve whatever you set out to achieve, and you should always aim high and higher than the stars, and it's achievable. And that's been our mantra. That was how I was brought up. That's how my siblings and I were brought up by our parents. My parents came from very humble backgrounds, but they always had aspiration at the forefront of everything that they did. My father went up from a family of 13. He went on and came to England, became a barrister, studied hard, became a barrister. My mum became a teacher and a head teacher. And they instilled all of that into us. And so therefore, as we've gone on, we've done the same for our children. We've ensured that they know that they are absolutely the best and that they should always strive to be the best that they could be. In terms of racism, of course, it's there. It's in the very bones of everything that happens around us. And I've never shied away from it. Alieda's never shied away for it. None of my siblings. My brother Roger, as you know, in Guyana, he would always speak out, etc. And you know, he suffered for that as well. But you know, I myself was a victim of a serious racist attack, you know, over 20 years ago. I almost lost my life. I didn't shut up. And this is what we need to do. We don't need to ignore it. We don't need to wash it under the carpet. We don't need to be afraid to speak out. And this is what I say to my children, the children that I teach, because I'm a teacher as well. You don't sweep anything under the carpet. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to bark and shout and scream, but you need to know exactly where you're coming from. You need to be proud of yourself, proud of your roots, proud of your heritage, and understand and have a knowledge about your history, and then you need to put people right.
You have given me goosebumps. Oh my God, I wish I wish everyone had a mum like you. You're amazing. That's
Actually,
wonderful to hear.
Juanita, I just added on the comments, I'm not sure how it came through, that the point I was trying to end on was that this issue of, you know, years ago and now and so on, that years ago as well, 2 generations ago, should I say, there was a level where people were educated, even when you're educated at primary level only or primary plus, you know. But maybe I'm still pulling on individual cases. I don't think so. You could come from, as a little man who used to work for us, when I said he was little, he really was little. He came from some part of a beast. I never heard this man not be able to find the right word to express himself very clearly, very succinctly. He, honestly, he worked for us 30 years plus as a sort of handyman and so on. He did other things before that, office person, office assistant and so on. He wrote very, very well. He wrote very, very well. And what we don't have now, I hope it's changing, but what we don't have and haven't had for a long time is focusing. As we all know, it was in the press only a couple of days ago, I think I saw that, about how people churn out education and standards now. And I was talking about Britain, because you just click on check your spelling. If you even feel like checking the spelling, you don't have to check the spelling. And if you don't check the spelling, that means you don't even know what the meaning of the words that you use are. And I feel that we've had a deterioration of sincerity, integrity, etc., through language and other things across the board. No matter who try, we can try all the people like Mrs. Christie and others. There's people pushing against that kind of wave, yeah? Okay. But years and years ago, you could come from anywhere. Nobody cared. This is what I was making the point just now. We didn't care. And people, we were all in the same school in the end, because we had been, you know, brought up to work hard and do our lessons and so on. And we then moved on. So, and we could often go to abroad and do better, inverted commas, than the locals. I'm sure people have that experience in the UK even, and so on, other countries, because we had that instinct to do well and not where you came from or who you were supposed to be. So if we had those standards that had everybody starting off better equipped to think, and to speak, and to do it fearlessly, as this lady is saying. You've got to be fearless. You should be able to defend your ideas.
Yeah, definitely.
And so otherwise, we deteriorate. I'm going to stop now.
Thank you so much, Elfrida. No, but that's a good, I mean, I like that you're bringing about being fearless, because I think that's definitely another aspect of it. But that's brilliant. I just wanted to bring in, I don't know if anybody else was on there, Alif or Mona Hazelwood or Jane. Jane, did you?
I was
oh, thank you.
I was going to speak with great respect to the lady who went to Bishops. You didn't have to know you better. You knew you were. I did not go to Bishops. And a lot of the speakers, bless them, had parents who were backboning them. Some of us did not. And I am so grateful that we have a generation of women who have come forward, but you can see they had a leg up from birth. They had a leg up from birth. That is without fault. I grew up on the west coast of Demerara among Indians, and we had 6 races, and I'm very Indian in culture, you wouldn't believe this. I know so many Indian dances and songs and this. You won't believe this, but I do. But when you speak, you have to say, from where did you come? You came from parents who already had you embraced to succeed. Some of us didn't. And so there must be a difference.
Alif, may I challenge you on that? I'm only going to challenge you because you are a prime example of someone who's Guyanese. Despite all the adversities you faced, you became the mayor of Macclesfield.
God knows how.
I know, but I mean, you have a whole raft of achievements yourself. So there must be something that is beyond. I mean, like Salina herself, she was brought up by a single parent mother, but she still seems to have just had this amazing attitude and resilience to life. So what was the key to your success?
When I got onto the public space, I had nothing to lose. I just had nothing to lose. I'll go for it. I was homeless many times, starving many times, never got a job. Trained in three degrees I have. I trained as a state registered nurse, a state certified midwife, a diploma in occupational health. I hold 3 degrees and couldn't get work. And when I was on the floor, I had nothing to lose. So maybe resilience from Guyana is one thing. Maybe. But I tell you something, you have to take this together, because one of the nice things you said, Joy struck me also, she went to bishops. And I could hear this, but just remember that most of the prime ministers went to Oxbridge. They knew they were better. So there is that. But some do come through. And I so salute the young women who have come through in the next generation. But some of us, there have to be variations. Yes, God knows how I became. I became the mayor because I announced I wanted to be. And that was that.
But Alif, I know from having met you that when you want something, you just get it. That is not an attitude that everybody has. I know lots of people from all sorts of varied backgrounds, and I have to say the Guyanese, hands down, are the one group of people I know do not allow anything to get in the way of what they want. And I just am always amazed and in awe of that.
I'm amazed too. I'm amazed that I am amazed that I actually did that.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. Yeah.
And I mean, you were saying the mayor of Macclesfield, but you've done a lot. I mean, it's not just that. I
was the mayor twice.
I've been amazed 100 times for meeting you, but I'm amazed even. I mean, when I think of somebody like Valerie Amos, and I think, wow, she came from Wakenham. I'm like, how'd you come from Wakenham? And then you go straight to the top of the tree. It's mind blowing, And it's something I want to be able to put in a bottle and just send out to everyone I know, because it's such a. We're as Guyanese are very, very fortunate to have that in their back pockets that they can pull out. But
can I comment?
Please, Auntie Joyce, do. Yes.
I want to comment. Yes. Can I come in now?
Come, Auntie Joyce. Yes, I can hear you.
I think what I've been around a long time with education, and I think 2 things I wanted to explain. British had compulsory education in 1870. We Guyanese had compulsory education in 1876. And I remember the days when attendance officers went to people's houses to find out why the children were not at school. So education was what you had to have. The other thing was that I laughed because the unintended result of British colonial education, people of my mother's generation through the Victorian age, they got the best education from the churches, and they didn't expect it, but we lapped it up. As I say, sometimes held by the wild cane.
Well, thank goodness we don't have that now, though.
My mother with primary education was reciting Edmund Burke's On the Death of Marie Antoinette. We don't know who Marie Antoinette was, and she didn't know either. But she was, yeah, Edmund Burke's. She would tell us about the Edmund Burke's speeches. You always had speeches about the war of the American independence. And the first time I heard my mother say, never, never, never. This is Edmund Burke saying that if he were an American, well, then he would behave the same way as the Americans are doing. So it was a high standard of education that they got from they were quoting Shakespeare, and I don't know if they ever read a book. So this is why for up to before the war years, British Guyana had the highest literacy standard in the country. And so you were always self-possessed because you knew you had it. And you had a self-possession that your parents. Let me give you a joke. I was teaching on the West Bank. And this, you're on this red, and I'm riding, and that's the trench. And the mother is saying, I did boys in my class, I nearly fell off the bicycle. She said, Mickey, come out to bed, but when you grow big and you want for money for writing, you got to bed. You don't want to pay the rent. And when you grow big and you want for your money, you want to write a letter, you got to beg your money for write up. Bye, Mickey, come out. He had to go to school and learn that so that he didn't have to brother write a letter for him. He had to be educated enough to do it for himself. And he was only in infant class. So that was the standard that we had. People ask me if I misbehaved. I couldn't misbehave because my mother had me so in the book that there was no time to misbehave. You always had to have the
Auntie Joyce, remind me, what was...
But that was our experience. You always had to have the book. You always had to have the reading.
Auntie Joyce, can I ask you, what was that thing? You remember when we did that program on phenomenal women, adversity and opportunity? I can't remember what it was, but there was a saying you said that was just so powerful. It was something to do with treating adversity as opportunity.
Adversity is the, what is it? It is it brings it makes you, adversity makes you more resilient because you have to override it, and you got to find ways and means of doing it, of overcoming it. It's like the key. You can have the key and you turn this key.
Yeah.
And you reach it. So don't let adversity do it. I can't remember what it was I said.
Don't worry, Auntie Joyce.
Adversity, look upon it as a prelude to advancement.
Oh, Adele is reminding me, every problem is an opportunity. That's what it is. It's every problem is an opportunity.
As regard to race, I was reading a book.
Auntie Joyce, hold that thought for 1 second.
Yeah.
It's nearly 5:30, so I just want to turn off the recording now. And before I go, I just want to say a formal thank you to everyone that partook in today, especially Salina and Alieda and Natalie and Marissa. And if I've forgotten anybody, I hope I haven't forgotten anybody, but you've all been absolutely amazing. And it's thrilling. It's thrilling to share in all of your success and to just see how successful you've been. So I hope we'll be able to take this conversation further on another occasion. But just for now, I'm going to stop the recording and then we can stay online and carry on the discussion. So I'm just stopping it for now.
And I thought for a little while, it's as if we had taken over our school because the only non-black there was the wife of the present minister of Mrs. what her name was. She was the wife of the Congregationalist minister who was white. We were all it was like a bishop-sized old girl in the staff room because we had taken over our school. So what I'm trying to say is that when common entrance came and there were then the English element had gone, but then it was a different school. But then you can compare with it. It was progress because I don't think there was anybody in that kind of school where you felt your money was important enough to make you better, even though you had nothing from the neck up.
You know what, Auntie Joyce? I turned the recording off, and then I felt like what a stupid person I am, because all these pearls of wisdom come out, and now I have to I put the recording back on, and now I've just decided I think I need you and Alif and maybe one other person in conversation.
It's a generational thing.
Yeah, it's a generational thing, but also you're sharing so much that we don't know about that needs to be
It's not the high school that you children went. I call you children because I'm old.
Well,
and I can tell you, the business high school I went to, it was really slob school. You got to make your way, dearie.
Yeah, no, I recognize that. I think definitely I need to get you and Alif and one other, maybe Uncle Eric, in a conversation.
It is our generation.
Yeah.
Auntie
Joyce, can I hold that thought? I just wanted to bring Afia in. Afia's got her hand up, so I just wanted to make sure that she also got a chance to share her thoughts. Afia?
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
I just wanted to say something very, very quickly. And before I say this, first of all, I wanted to thank all the amazing panelists for their thoughts and for sharing their pearls of wisdom with us. It's been a real
Can you speak closer to your mic?
I am so sorry. Can you all hear me a bit better now?
Yeah, we can hear back. Can you say from the beginning, though, what you were saying?
Of course. First of all, I just wanted to say good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to attend this event. It's been a real honor and a pleasure listening to these amazing panelists speak. I've been really impressed hearing these amazing young women speak and share their pearls of wisdom about their own personal roadmaps to success. So that was what I wanted to say. First of all, thank you all so much for putting on this amazing event. I just wanted to kind of follow on from what Auntie Joyce said, because I've been listening to the comments about the schools such as Bishops and QC, etc. And before I say this, I want to say, first of all, I know that I did not grow up in Guyana. I'm of Guyanese heritage. I did not grow up there. I'm very privileged to be of Guyanese heritage, and I'm very proud of that. But I just wanted to just kind of follow on from what Auntie Joyce said. I think that to say that, or at least it seems to be suggested earlier on, that it doesn't really matter what school you went to in Guyana and everyone was kind of treated equally. There seems to be that kind of suggestion of that. Please do correct me if I'm wrong, but I would respectfully disagree. The reality is that so many people, if it doesn't matter what school you went to, if it doesn't matter that you went to QC or St. Stanislaus or these big name schools, then why would people feel the need to bring it up? The reality is that it does matter. The same way in different countries, there are many countries where it matters what school you go to. And the reality is that people who do go to these schools do get some semblance or quite a big leg up from children who don't go to those schools. The reality is that there is a tiered secondary school education system in Guyana. That is the reality of it. Now, again, I want to just make clear, yes, I did not grow up there, but I have a lot of anecdotal evidence. I've listened to family and friends, and many of my family members are very proud of the schools they went to, and are very will make sure that you know that they went to President's College, etc. So it does matter. That's the reality of it. And I think to kind of pretend as though it doesn't matter is just unrealistic. I think we need to pretending as though things don't exist won't change anything, or at least won't make things a little bit more fair. That is the reality of it. It does matter what school you went to. People very much will get a leg up from the different schools that they go to. And I think we just need to be a bit more honest about that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I just interject? Thank you, Afia. Thank you, Afia. I think that was a really relevant point. But I just would like to reiterate, thank you, Afia, relevant point. But I would like to bring some clarity to that. What I was referring to is that aspiration and resilience of Guyanese people. That's where I was at. It didn't matter what school you went to. That did not affect your aspiration and resilience. All Guyanese whom I've met have got really high levels of aspiration and really high levels of resilience and perseverance. This is what I'm saying. It's not the school that made you have that. It is innate to us. It is bred in us to have that level of aspiration, to persevere, to have resilience. So I just want to make that explicitly clear. So it's not that you know, and once you did go to bishops and various schools, etc. Yes, of course, you know, that did come with certain privileges, absolutely. But I just want to make sure you understood that when I was referring to saying that going to those schools didn't matter, it was to that initial question that we had about, you know, this the sense that Guyanese seem to do well, to contribute, and that's what I was referring to when I say it did not matter what school you went to, whether you went to multilateral, whether you went wherever you went. Okay, perseverance, resilience. This is specific to what I was talking about. That's specifically what I was referring to. So I hope that I have provided clarity on that.
Thank you, ladies. I just would like, I know you're going to wrap up. I just wanted to say thanks to everybody. And Miss Trotman, I'm happy to have a glimpse of you. And you're still.
Who is that?
This is Elfrida. Elfrida December.
Oh, we met so many donkeys years ago. Yes, Frida.
And you came into my office and you brought your wonderful book.
That's right.
I think we still have some in the gallery. I shouldn't mention the gallery. We should still have some books. Don't worry. I hope to meet up with you.
Hello, Frida.
It's delightful to see you. It's delightful to see you and to hear your fighting spirit and all your clarity in thinking.
I was tired. I came rather late, but I said I must come. I must.
No, quite so. I just want to say thanks to all of you. My thing was also this issue of perception. It's how people, sometimes you can't control how people perceive you. Where you come from doesn't matter. You can go to whatever school, your father could be anything on your mother, it doesn't matter. Because even if you're, as I would say to my staff over and over, it doesn't matter if you're cutting cane, if you're cleaning the drains and the gutters, if you do your job properly.
The fact is that even if you came out,
if you do your job properly, you're a professional and I will respect you and you will be my equal because you're doing the best job you know to do. So you can have a mindset to just do the best you can in any situation. But the issue of the schools and so on, obviously there were privileges, but you also had to earn those privileges because you had to do well at your exams or whatever. So it's an ongoing discussion, but I just want to say thank you. I need to go off, but I'm extremely happy to have met up with all these ladies, not only the youngsters who are so bright.
Yes, I see you, Elfrida.
Okay, Ms. Trotman, I hope to chat with you all again one of these days.
And Michelle.
Auntie Joyce, you're right there in the same screen as her now.
You know,
thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Elfrida. Thank you. Thank you.
Most welcome. Thanks.
Thanks. Gosh, I think we've had a really good long chin wag today. I wondered, there's a few people have been very quiet and I didn't know if you wanted to come in. There's I can see Megan Stobie. Did you want to contribute at all to the conversation or are you happy?
Am I allowed to say one more thing, Chair?
Bear with me. Yes, of course you may. I just want Megan to come in.
It is a fact that the color of your skin informed where you were in Guyana. If you were brown, you stick around. If you're black, you stay back. If you're white, you are right. And don't tell me that didn't happen.
Oh, it was happening at Bishop's High School.
That didn't tell me that didn't happen. If you're black, you stay back. You're brown, you stick around.
But so can I ask you then, given that there was, I mean, because let's face it, in Guyana, you have all the racial tensions between the Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, and then here in the UK, there's other racial tensions. Like, how does that, I mean, for you, Alef, how come, so we're saying it's mindset and resilience, but you literally didn't accept the glass ceiling.
You don't
my grandmother, I was brought up to be thinking, and I told you this before, Alef, your ambition more than your position. Mm-hmm. I learned that in church. I learned that I was told black people, when God made people, mm-hmm. He bade them, and black people went last because they're born lazy. That's why only their hand turned white. I was told that in school. Mm. But somehow I thought I never belonged.
What I'm trying to say is that when they do that, you prove them wrong.
I couldn't. A child of 8 cannot speak up to the headmaster. He told me I was inferior.
At this point, you have proved them wrong.
Oh, well,
thank
yeah,
God
she
for that.
proved them wrong, of course.
Thank God.
But
Thank
Auntie
God for
Joyce,
that.
can I throw I want to be devil's advocate. Actually, no, before I say anything, I really want Megan to come in because I want Megan to contribute to the conversation too.
Yeah. Well, I'll go off now because quite honestly, thank you, Megan, and God bless you.
Okay. Good night. Thank you,
Megan, yes.
Auntie Alieda, thank you.
Thank you very much, Juanita, for inviting me to speak. I've been very, very impressed and very inspired. My story is I'm a specialist nurse. I am Guyanese heritage, obviously. Born in the UK, but I heard one of the other panelists mentioning the opportunity of going back to live in Guyana. I lived there for 21 years, and then I came back to the UK. So I qualified as a nurse in Guyana, and then I came back to the UK. It's been a very, very inspiring afternoon. I'm very grateful that you gave me the opportunity. I'm very glad that I did Zoom in, because at one stage I was saying I don't think it was necessary. But obviously I think I'm now third generation or third generation now. It's been very, very inspiring to hear from my fellow Guyanese that live in the UK. And I will definitely be part of the group now. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Very, very inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan. That's brilliant.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wanted to? Because, you know, I was going to throw into the mix, Auntie Joyce. I was just going to say that I feel a little bit like Guyana is like survival of the fittest, because one of the things that really strikes me is that there's something wrong in what we're saying in terms of, yes, resilience, yes, mindset, but we have the highest rate of suicide in the world. So there's the flip side to that, is that if you can't succeed, then what's the consequence of that? There's something very you know, it just occurred to me that I'm so focused on how amazing it is that so many people succeed that I sometimes forget that, and we mustn't forget that so many people end up committing suicide. And I don't know what, I don't know if that's because there is a kind of pressure to be so successful that if you don't, or whether it's just the current contemporary environment in Guyana where economically it's so hard and so challenging.
It's a different Guyana from the one we grew up in.
Yeah, but so you didn't have the same, did you not have the same, like, were you aware of suicide and things like that going on?
Not really.
Not really. Okay.
Juanita, can I come in?
Please. Was a smaller population, and the generation of people who influence with the teachers. It's a quality of education, the economic situation. And I don't think they were, I'm not sure, I haven't lived in Guyana for so long now, but when I go back, you're not sure in the schooling, does it come from the schools, the kind of schools? I don't know. I can't give you an answer.
I feel like it must be economic, but can I just, somebody asked to just come in.
It's me, it's Michelle. Juanita.
Oh, Michelle, yeah, come in, Michelle.
Hi, I'm not gonna put my camera on. And I usually just pop in and pop out, but I've managed to stay on the whole time and have listened to most of it. I didn't hear Marissa, and I heard only some of Salina's, but it's been absolutely brilliant. I had heard about Alieda accidentally on another presentation that I did, and they were bigging her up.
Okay.
Some months ago, and wanted to connect with her. So thank you for that, because now I'm able to do so. But it's because you mentioned about that. If you don't succeed, what happened? And I thought it. Yeah, as Auntie was saying, it isn't to do with necessarily with the lack of success, and we need to really do a quality study, a quality research of the contributing factors of the people who commit suicide and why that is. Because we are talking about a different time. We are probably talking about a particular cohort, necessarily.
The whole
cultural differences,
demographic.
demographic within.
Yeah.
When I heard the first suicides, obviously we know about and we've heard about, and I still think there's a spiritual thing that needs to be figured out and factored in as well. Was the Jimmy Jones suicide. That's the first time we knew about any kind of killing like that or what have you in Guyana, mass, which we haven't really resolved a lot of that spiritually, energetically. And some of the things in some of the conversations we have about Guyana, we forget. For me, it's a very, it's like a living, breathing, spiritual place. Hence a lot of artists. Hence, there are so many, the type of artists that we have as well, connected to the ground, connected to the spirit of the place. And I take on board what Alison said as well, that look where I'm coming from. Sometimes I marvel at, I'm from Silvertown Hill in a very large family. And, I've come over here and, have somewhere in my psyche the will to step out of the expectations of my position. There's something in my psyche, and I know that I have ancestors who are, the academic side. They didn't, as far as I know, not too many of them would have gone to the posh schools, but I certainly didn't go to a posh school. So there is something in there that hasn't really, and I'm not even saying necessarily in a total agreement that it's a peculiar thing to Guyanese. I don't like making things that definitive. We haven't done a spread of the Caribbean necessarily to know how others succeed. It does seem that Guyanese, from my experience, they are like vanguards in certain things. They're like the first will try it. It's like they'll leap and be the first to do things. There's a book waiting for that to happen as well. But certainly having this spiritual connection, this sense of the place, we haven't even added to that the territory that's Guyana, the different territories, let alone the peoples in Guyana, that makes for that connective, the connective tissue that binds us to it. Guyana, it was very difficult for the colonials to penetrate it. That's why we're in the coast mostly. If you go further in, it's really difficult to penetrate Guyana. So I think it's a big question as to why we are the way we are, what really fully makes us peculiar in terms of whether it's success or whatever. And we need to really, it's something that I will be looking into, but I do think that we need to understand the spirit of that place, because it's very, very phenomenal, and it produces phenomena that we find sometimes startling and sometimes indeed amazing. That's all I really wanted to say. I've connected with Alieda privately and others, so thank you for enabling that. Good to see you, Auntie Joyce.
Thanks, Michelle. That's brilliant. I don't know, did anybody else want to come in? That's Adele. I know I had originally wanted Adele Sewell's daughter on as well. Zinzi, who's another amazing Guyanese Jamaican phenomenon. Yeah, creation. But I think, I don't know, we're at 6 o'clock now, so we've actually been online for like 3 hours. I think maybe we should wind up.
Again,
just quickly, in response to the sister that's Adele that mentioned about Jim Jones, we've got to deal with this question, because every time Jim Jones is mentioned, it's brushed away as an American problem. Mm-hmm. That is something that we really need to deal with in Guyana. It's not quite an American problem, and it wasn't only American people that perished in that tragedy. And that goes back to the land. It goes, which is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say about the spilling of blood.
And you know what, Michelle, you're reminding me as well that the Amerindians who were caught up in it, their bodies were never returned back to Guyana.
Right.
You know, they're still, I don't know what they did with them in America, but their bodies were never returned, which is.
So it is a thing that we need to confront, and again, not that's why I'm mentioning it. I didn't even intend to say anything here. So clearly the fact that I'm saying this and that it's gone in that direction where I'm suddenly talking about the land and the connective tissue that the people have to the land, it doesn't really matter that you're saying that most of the people that came there came from America. We were talking about the suicide. We were talking about the energy that was heightened at that time. It was like a surge of a particular energy that landed in Guyana, the spilling of blood on that territory in the Amerindians space. Who knows what sacredness that land represented prior to that? Do you see what I mean? It's something that I'm not saying that that's the only contributor, but I'm saying it's the spirit of the energy that connected to that suicide, that major suicide that to date remains the largest in the world, I think has not been resolved. We haven't had a purging, if you like, or some kind of way of the healing of that land. And until generally the attacks on the land globally, but specifically, let's go back to Guyana, how we treat the land, how we treat the environment, how we treat those waters, what we take for granted in terms of the land and environment ecologically is a big major issue that perhaps can be considered for a conversation here as well, Juanita, one of these fine days. The environment, the ecology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, sis. So, did anybody else want? In fact, I'm going to say it's time because it's like 6 o'clock.
Please.
I'm just going to say bless you.
It's time. I got to take a 5. I got to take a 10.
For opening this
You're also
conversation.
you're low to click the leave button, but it's
I
time.
gotta leave. I click in the leave button now, right? So I'm gonna see all of you all later.
Bless you, bless
Thank you.
When's
Thank
our
you
next
so much.
session?
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
When's
Bye,
our next
everyone.
session?
Oh, the next session is the last Sunday in February. I don't know what the date is.
Okay, perfect. Will you send out invites or?
Yes, invites will be sent out. They'll be on Facebook and they'll also be on Twitter. And if you aren't already on my circulation list that happens via Gmail, make sure you just email me at guyanaspeaks@gmail.com so that we can add you on. So I don't know what the next session is because my husband Rod, whose face is here, I'm going to spotlight him so you all can see him. He is responsible for February. I'm taking a rest for February, but I have an event that you will have seen is on the 13th of March, which is about Oscar Abrams and the Kiskadee Center, which was the first Black kind of cultural and arts hub here. That I spoke to you about that had an impact, and many greats came out of it, including Linton Kwesi Johnson and all of that. So that is on the 13th of March. I actually put the Eventbrite link in here right at the start. So I'm just going to copy that again and put it at the bottom if in case anybody wants to go right ahead and book it now. But that one will be really good. I'm bringing in various people that also worked here in the UK, people like Henry Mutu, and I'm hoping to get a surprise guest, which will high profile guest on the program for that one. So it should be really good. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Rod, do we know what's happening for February?
Oh, no.
No, Rod doesn't know. He can't hear me anyway, so I'm not going to trouble him.
To be decided. To be
Okay.
decided.
To be decided. Okay. Okay, great. Well, fantastic. Thank you, everybody, so much for staying online for so long. But what a fantastic conversation.
Love you plenty.
Love you plenty.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Nina. It's been great having all of you. Really nice and great to see so many new faces. Megan, you're a new face, right?
Yes, I am. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I am a new face. Thank you. I'm glad I had the opportunity. Lovely, very uplifting, very inspiring. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you, and I hope you all join again. Bye,
Yes,
everyone.
definitely. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.